across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Welcome along. What is it? Tuesday, the 25th of August, and have we got an amazing... I'm going to say an amazing show, because that will be prejudging how rubbish I really am. But lined up this morning, just to repeat, for Tuesday, an extraordinary piece of work. From 7, Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor, will announce what can only be described as the most unbelievable world exclusive. I can't say any more, but every single news network across this country will pick this up, I promise you. Do not go anywhere. 7 o'clock this morning, Isabel Oakeshott on this show announcing what can only be described as an amazing piece of work, and I mean that. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform, will be live in this studio from 8 o'clock. So much to talk about, so much to get through, and I thought today when I came in, I thought there's a lot of people running around because there's a lot going on and people get really stressed and they've been working really hard, and presumably Christian's been working really hard because he looks slightly behind the 8 ball this morning. And I said to him, Christian, that particular story you'd like to talk about this morning, where's the thing describing what page it is? Do you know what he said to us? Find it yourselves. That's what they used to do in paper reviews. I'm not spoon-feeding this one. I'm quite tired. So there we go. Grumpy executive producer. Not at all. So listen, really great to have you along this morning. Alarm Clock Brits, don't know where you are, what you're doing, but if you want to be part of this show as ever, 0344 499 1000. It's the only number you need in town. You can call, you can send a voice note. Christian will say it then. Tom is in the house. Big Mark, it's only a rumour, is pushing the buttons, and the queen of all she purveys, Neha, is in the building. Text to 87222. Straight away, we're going to start at a slightly different level this morning. I'd say cerebrally, we're aiming high, morally, quite low. I don't know where he's been, but he's back. Benedict Spence. Good morning, dear boy.
Good morning, how are you?
Cerebrally high and morally low.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I know. Well,
put that on my my business card.
Yes, you imagine, yeah.
If I had such a thing.
Benedict Spence, business card. We obviously will talk more and more about this this Talk World exclusive, but I know you've been involved as well. It's extraordinary, and wherever you are, I promise you, you will not want to miss this. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday about the show, and they were saying, you do talk about migrants and stuff so much, and then this person stopped and went, but I get it, because it seems to be the story that will run and causes so much unbelievable angst and a feeling of real unfairness. There's a story in the Mail today, which I'm going to let you go with, because this is, to me, all those people out now working or just coming back from a night shift will listen to this story and just go, why the hell am I bothering?
Honestly, I mean, the thing is, we think about how long the small boats crisis has been going on. 8 years. 8 years. And so when, you know, people come up to you and they say, oh, well, it's been, you know, you talk about it a lot. It's not just that you talk about it a lot, it's that you've been talking about it for such an extended period of time. And in that entire period of time, the numbers have only got up, the issue is only getting worse, and we have simply a series of governments fidgeting, fiddling, not really doing very much. You have things like the Rwanda scheme that are proposed and never get off the ground. And it's, I'm afraid to say, it's no better example of the ineptitude of politics in this country and of government in this country. If you wanted a more sort of brazen example, it's your own border being violated over and over again, every day.
Good word, that, violated.
Right, I think it's perfectly encapsulates what's actually going on, because, you know, we're told, oh, on the one hand, maybe these are people who are, you know, desperate and they're fleeing war, but at the same time, oh, it's criminal gangs, and, oh, well, we don't know who these people are exactly, and, oh, well, they're all children, and, oh, actually, they're all not.
Or the Labour MP last week who told me, and I quote, they all speak English, which is why they come here, tried explaining we spent 100 million quid on interpreters, or the other thing was, which gave away the game. He said, well, he almost implied we deserved it because of our colonisation in yesteryear, which is extraordinary.
It's a continuation, that, of a certain brand of student politics that did, in fact, take hold about 15 to 20 odd years ago, and is now, in fact, in charge. It's, you know, people populating government in Whitehall. These are the same people that had those views about decolonisation and everything back in the day, back when I was at university, when it was really taking off. So yes, it's not only seen as sort of, on the one hand, impossible to stop, but also a moral good, but also you deserve it because you were morally bad at some point.
But what about the
Maybe not
moral
you.
badness that you're showing towards your own people? This is the bit that I can never get. Have you got this particular
I'm trying
story?
to find the story.
I'll tell you what it is. This is Wethersfield former RAF base, ladies and gentlemen, in Essex. There's an astonishing story in the Mail today, which, I mean, lays bare what we talk about every single morning. And if you are tuning in, I would love your response. 0344 499 1000. I mean, hats off to the... I mean, I'm actually going to read a little bit of this out from my phone. You'll love this. Inside the Asylum Centre holiday camp, there's a gym, there's a football pitch, there's a snack bar, and there are 17 minibuses daily to ferry migrants into towns. The leader of Essex County Council was given access. This is what he found. Welcome to Holiday Camp UK. For the 800 guests enjoying the luxury sports facilities, this place is unbeatable. As I saw myself on a visit this week, residents want for practically nothing. There's a fully equipped gymnasium, a fitness room, a full-size soccer pitch, a substantial indoor sports hall, the equipment for five-a-side soccer, basketball and cricket. For those who want to take it easy, there's flat-screen televisions and pool tables and a snack bar. Mobile phones are provided for all, with general allowances for free calls. The main restaurant, 2 dining halls, provide 3 meals a day with a wide choice of meals choices, including vegetarian. All the food is free. The only restriction is that all meat is halal. Non-Muslims don't get a choice about that. Basically... similarly, though, the prayer rooms are described as multi-faith areas. Most of the religious material is Islamic, with plenty of Qurans and no Bibles. Prayer mats cover almost all the available floor space. I mean, that is, with the greatest of respect, if you are going to work today and you've been up all night with your kids, or, I don't know, your wife's been working overnight and she's just come in, how the hell do they expect that to sound?
Yeah, and this is... It's incredibly irritating if you are, as you say, somebody who actually has to sort of, you know, work for their supper, sing for their supper in this country. But the problem is, of course, because there's no real deterrent, the second that this gets out, and I think the key thing there is that they get free calls, free access to the outside world to communicate with people. Well, if you were coming from, say, I don't know, South Sudan or Afghanistan or wherever like that, and you hear this is what's on offer, what is going to stop you from going, do you know what, I'm going to have some of that as well? And I think there's the real sort of juxtaposition here, because, again, we're told they're all huddled masses, they're all fleeing war, they're all desperately persecuted.
They're not.
But do you remember when we did, in fact, have an influx of people from a country called Ukraine?
Yep.
How many of them were going to these sorts of, you know, centres and this like that and claiming all these things? Everybody that I know has a Ukrainian working for them in some capacity, be it as a cleaner, be it on a job site, be it something like that. They came and they got to work. They were people who decided,
and
listen,
it was women and children.
Yeah, it was a situation where they were saying, listen, we don't want to leave our homeland, we don't want to leave our country, there's a dreadful situation, we are getting out because it's safe in the short term,
Absolutely.
with every intention of going back. And of course the insane thing is, lots of them have actually even gone back in the meantime.
Imagine.
Yeah, because they've decided, you know, I don't want to be away from her, I don't want to be away from my husband who is having to fight and come back on leaving this, and I need to be there. There's been an awful lot of that. You don't get that from these same people,
but you know,
who are all apparently fleeing the same dreadful wars and conflicts. You had one set of people who came here, got to work, got down to it, often for not very much money, but they mucked in. And on the other hand, you've got an awful lot of people who rather expect everything else to be taken care of.
This is Wethersfield Airfield Asylum accommodation. By the way, Christian, my thing might not be working because I've got no text. You might want to come in here. Look, Grumpy's coming in the studio at 6:10. He's a bit grumpy this morning. Do you know what he said to me? I've been working on this exclusive for days and Are you all right?
Yeah.
Feeling a bit emotional?
Always.
Always. Very nice to have him on. Look, it doesn't work on camera, does it? Say good morning.
Good morning.
0344 499 1000. This is my bit, and I don't want to become like a stuck record. Thanks, Christian. How does anybody in power, do they not care? Do they not have the cojones? How long do they think your normal man or woman in this country, outside the M25 bubble, is going to put up with this crap? Because it's too much.
The dreadful thing is, I think they will put up with it for a very long time. I think that they think that of us. And their key for thinking that is COVID. Now, COVID actually, I think, revealed an awful lot into the modern British psyche. Not, you know, what we once were. But an awful lot of people were prepared to put up with an awful lot and say not very much. And even turn on their fellow citizens when they were prepared to sort of speak up about, you know, the cessation of civil liberties because it was an emergency. What was demonstrated there was actually a lot of people will, if they think it's morally good, put up with an awful lot of nonsense. And the problem is, there are still enough people, I think, in this country who look at this problem and go, oh, well, what are you going to do? It's an awful thing. You can't deport these people. It's fascism. It's this and the other, because they are not the ones affected by it.
Yeah,
that's the key thing.
completely agree.
There are still an awful lot of people for whom this is not a thing. But I tell you what, if Andy Burnham gets his way and he decides he's going to start redistributing people to, you know, the leafy suburbs, to Lib Dem land, those people will start to see that happening, and that, I think, will be the key test of all of this.
Isn't there a... Do you remember with the Epping thing, the Bell Hotel in Epping? And I think, I could be wrong, but the local MP, or a local political influence, Rachel Millward, is the deputy leader of the Greens, isn't she? And she signed a letter saying, none of them in my local area, but was campaigning nationally, saying we should open our borders. You're absolutely right about that. And the thing is, I hate this analogy that if we don't give as much as we do, despite the fact we can't afford it, that somehow morally makes us look not very caring. I always want to jump in and go, explain that. Because I don't believe any of these politicians, and we've got a Prime Minister who apparently epitomises the North, but I spend so much time north of Watford Gap, and all of these people say the following thing, which is, do they understand how hard it is? Do they understand how energy prices have impacted our businesses, how the cost of living has destroyed any chance to save or even have a family holiday? And we sit and we work and we do everything right, and then we look at people coming here who are crossing 7 free countries without their wives and children, who are patently here to take office, and a government or successive government stands by and allows that to happen. And there's your point. There's the point that listen, whenever I talk about this, people get off on one again. I don't know what will happen in the end, but certainly unless we get a conviction politician who goes, 50% of this country is going to hate me, but these people are being detained and deported, and I do not care about the left, or we slide into what? Some sort of civil war. The whole thing's appalling, Benedict.
Well, before we even slide into civil war, we will hit bankruptcy. This is the insane
quite
thing,
relevant,
is that, you know, that actually the cost of not just this, but so many other things. But again, you know, an example of that, you're saying, you know, people in the north of the Midlands saying that they don't understand. Well, just take a look at Brexit. And the political elite of this country didn't understand, you know, their own country back then. They didn't understand the factors behind it, many of which are the same factors today because they've not been addressed. I mean, this is the truly insane thing. You know, you talk about the cost of living and all that sort of thing, and, you know, even migration numbers. And one of the very funny things is that you've then got a series of people who spent all those months campaigning against Brexit. They're the ones that turn around now and say, oh, but this is because of Brexit, and the large numbers of people coming around is because of Brexit. They don't stop for a second to think, were these not, in fact, the same factors that caused people to vote for Brexit because they saw them coming? And it's a real disconnect. As I say, there are people who have got a certain ideological view of the world in this country. Many of them, far too many of them, are in pretty influential positions.
Well, they need to be ousted. Well, they need to be ousted because they make no sense.
But they will not change their minds, because people do not change their minds.
Well, then they need to be fired.
Exactly.
They need to be fired.
So then there comes the question, how do you do that? Now we have a situation on the right where we have 3 parties, more or less, competing, 2 big ones and a smaller one, and they're sort of all jostling for the same space. They all hate each other. None of them can actually agree on anything. And therein, I'm afraid, is where Andy Burnham gets off by going, I can get away with this, because he knows his opposition is divided.
Absolutely. So this is inside the asylum centre holiday camps all over the Mail. The leader of Essex County Council, who's a reform councillor, managed to get a pass into the Wethersfield former RAF base. It's got everything: a gym, a football pitch, mobile phones, pool tables. You can get a massage, you can go to the snack bar, you can go in and out of town in a minibus. And guess what, peeps? We're all bloody well paying for it. Charlie, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Benedict. It's Charlie and George again. On our way to work, helping to pay that 40 billion welfare bill. But just listening to you speak about the migrant holiday camp, we better start working harder, me and old George, because that must come to a few quid. It does really make you want to turn around, doesn't it, and just go home, knocking your pipe out till 4 o'clock, and that's where all the money's going. Anyway, on the flip side, I read on a separate news channel that Andy Burnham, he's going to start entering people's houses to see what the value is. HMRC are going to start coming through your front door to value your house to see if you're paying enough tax. Oh, well, it's got to make room for a few more migrants, I'm afraid. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Over and out.
Can I just have a say, good man, can I just have a say on that mansion tax thing before people jump up and down? Andy Burnham and this Labour government are likely to allow mansion tax inspectors to knock on your front door and come into your house to see if it's worth a certain amount of money to pay more tax. But the left recoil in horror if you dare to mention that certain parties, if in government, would detain people by going into their houses and arresting them and deporting them from this country, which needs to be done.
It's that particular thing about people going into the houses to value them, I find so unbelievably insidious. And actually, I think people should resist it. They absolutely should resist it. Do not open the door, because this is the definition.
I completely agree.
This is the definition of the erosion of private property.
Yes.
Your house is your private property.
And also, think about this. You can now just fill in a form and say, I've got anxiety, but you can't fill in a form to prove how much your house is worth.
Exactly.
It's completely bloody imbalanced.
It is imbalanced, it is insane, it is immoral. And also, let's remember here that we currently exist in a very weird situation where nobody's actually sure what the value of property is in this country because the market is fluctuating.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure what my house is worth. It's worth £1 less than what Andy Burnham wants it to be
there
worth.
You go. But
I'm being serious. I think it's duplicitous.
In many parts of the country, in real terms, the most valuable houses are actually down in real terms by up to 40% or something like mad like that. But I tell you what, I bet you anything, Andy Burnham's inspectors will not recognise that. They'll come in and say, oh, no, actually, it's worth this much. But if you were to then try and put it on the market, could you sell it for that much? Almost certainly not. A house is worth what somebody's prepared to pay for it. The idea that the government could come in and say, no, we're going to set the price of what it is, I mean, come on, that's just, it's nuts.
Couldn't agree more. 6:18 on a Tuesday morning. Benedict and I talking about this Wethersfield former RAF base in Essex that's become a migrant holiday camp. We've got that massive talk, world exclusive, with Isabel Oakeshott at 7 o'clock. Do not miss it. It will go everywhere at 8. The leader of Reform, Nigel Farage, live in this story, but that's not what's getting you on 8722. I see Benedict has found his comb this morning, says Pete. Good to see. Christine says, oh, Benedict, where's the tobacco linen suit that I so crave you to wear? It's not tobacco colour, it's dirty. Morning, says Christine. Andy Burnham, disgusting the way he dressed. Just get how to dress from Benedict Spence. Good morning, guys. I'm sitting here drinking my coffee out of an old mug with a crack in it. Why can't I have a talk mug? Oh, we're back there again.
Where's me mug?
There aren't any. Do you know about this mug saga? There's 20 in the kitchen. We've never had any made. I just thought it was a bit of fun. I give away. He goes ballistic. Every time we finish this show, Christian goes, you can't keep giving away. We'll have to buy some. I said, I'll buy some. Keep people We've had people saying I'm disabled, I've got a lazy eye, I can't drink my coffee, I mean, my whole life is stressed.
I'm just going to walk out with this one. I'm not even going to give you an excuse.
That's quite a tatty one, isn't it?
Nobody wants that one. Exactly, no one.
Poppy was begging for one yesterday. Morning, JK and Benedict. This asylum holiday camp, it's all down to one thing, the Labour chasing votes. And on top of this, the budget will be geared to pay for it. That's an interesting analogy from Bill in Romsey. Thank you, Bill. Damon's on. Morning, Jez. Morning, Mr. Spence. Mr. Spence?
I say.
Every day I ask myself, why did I bother joining the army in the 1990s and defending my country? I can see my country being invaded and taken over by illegal migrants, some people who don't belong here. British values are being killed off, and I fear for the future. Britain, I fear, will fall, and our nationality will suffer, because no government has the cojones to do anything about this invasion. Jez, Benedict, here's the bottom line. Maybe these invaders are not all malevolent, but because we have no clue who they are, we have to treat them all as if they're hostile for the sake of the safety of the people of our nation, says Nick in Loughborough. Good morning. Christine, I'm raging about the money spent on this camp. My autistic great-grandson and other SEN children and families have to work bloody hard to raise money to help, and they get nothing from the local council. Dave says, morning, gang. No doubt the loony left will describe this as far-right propaganda. They will never admit there is a problem, no matter how much damage this does to their country. Dave in Aberdeen, PS, last time, can I please beg you for a mug? As a veteran, I have nothing to drink out of. Oh, God. Right, Dave from Aberdeen's top... No, sorry. He says, I'm off to a reunion in Doncaster as a gratitude for all that I did for the country, and I'll be the only one there that won't have anything to drink out of. Right, Dave in Aberdeen, Christian, top of the list this morning. We get till 7 o'clock. Honestly, it's like that. Have you seen that film, you know, when... what is it, Pretty Woman? Not Pretty Woman. What's the other one? Notting Hill, where she has to go round to his family and they have to act about who's good enough for the brownie, and it's like that. That's what every single day. The worst story, and I end up thinking, oh, bless him, he's a veteran, he's got nothing to drink out of. How can I do that to him?
Really easy to tug on your heartstrings, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Ooh, I've only got one arm. Oh, I've only got no arms. I don't know how I texted in this morning.
Somebody phoned up yesterday and said, is it a left-handed mug or right-handed mug? And so stupid am I spent 10 minutes on it. Colin, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Benedict. I tell you what it is, mate. Listen, Colin here, truck driver from Blackburn. Just coming back up to Calais now. They are everywhere. And I'll tell you what am I working for? Sorry, Jez, I love you to bits, mate. Your programme's fantastic. But Christ, it's depressing me, pal. I'm working for Jack Sorrell.
Nigel Farage, I want to give credit here. I don't agree with a lot of reform's policies, particularly on the economy, which don't add up. They would add heavily to the debt, which I think is a big danger for the country. But on this, I want to pay him a huge amount of credit. Let me tell you, I went to Calais and spoke to a lot of people, African men mainly, living in a warehouse. And I said, if you knew you were going to be instantly deported, would you come? He said, we're not going to spend 5,000 to a people smuggler to know that we're going to end up back in Africa. Of course they're not. That is that smashes the business model of the game.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 6:25. Tuesday morning, this is Jeremy Kyle on Talk, the home of common sense, and of course, the home of you, the alarm clock. Brett, your views on the day's news. What are you waking up to? You're waking up to a massive announcement on Talk. We will have, in less than 35 minutes, a world exclusive. Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor, will be here. All I can say is nobody else in any media sphere has managed this, and this will go everywhere. Be with us from 7. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform, will be in the studio with me from 8 o'clock to dissect all of that. Benedict Spence, him of linen fame, is with me still doing the mugs. Joanna from Salisbury. If I get one, I'm going to give it to Burnham so he can rattle it for change at his local bus station when he's voted out. Brilliant.
That's not the image that we want for Talk.
No, I don't want Andy Burnham touching my mug, so to speak. JK and Benefit, this Wethersfield holiday camp for the people invading our country is jaw-dropping. Andy Burnham has the power to stop this and call a Cobra meeting right now. He just ignores this. Why? Because they don't want to, I'm afraid, have a discussion about it. Margaret. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Steve from Leicester. Another alarm clock, Brit. Got up about 2 hours ago, ready to start a 12-hour shift. Just heard what you were saying about this migrant camp and getting all this stuff for free. Makes me sick, mate. If I don't cover 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then 5 hours overtime on a Saturday, I can't pay my bills, mate. It makes me sick, honestly. It makes me sick. Why do I bother, mate? Why do I bother?
And do you know why? And I'm going to say this, not why do you bother? And this isn't some sort of deep thing, but that's why I do this show. Because people like him get up for his family, go to work. You heard what he said. He's got to do 60 hours a week and some extra time on Saturday to pay the bills, right? So his family's OK. in Steve's life and in so many people's lives, what the hell is fair about that? What's the realisation of if a succession of politicians think Steve is irrelevant, they're in for a big shock. That's all I can say. I don't. If I was met, right, by a wave of people every day saying, "Oh, come on, Jez, you're being unfair, you're being..." I don't want to open up the newspapers and have a go at the government, actually. I'd love to come on here every day and say, isn't it great that everything's going well? But it's a bag of... It is. And until people... not people. Until politicians realise that we're no longer... I must sound like we're no longer, but until they realise that the silent majority are no longer going to carry on doing the right thing and being crushed emotionally, financially, morally, whatever way you want to describe it, somebody's got to wake up, because it's awful.
It is awful, and you sort of juxtapose it with, for instance, the fact that there are record numbers of people on in-work benefits. That's the thing that always really gets me, is the number of people in this country who work those incredible hours, but also actually need benefits to help themselves be propped up. Why? Because work isn't paying enough. Why is work not paying enough? Well, one of the reasons, absolutely one of the reasons, is because of the influx of people into this country who will work for less money. It suppresses wages. It's a deliberate strategy. Now, those aren't the illegal people coming in. That's the other side of the coin. It's those people who we are told, well, you can't complain about them because they're here legally. And that is now in the millions, the high millions of people who are here, and that is not fair. And when you then look at that situation, and you look at the fact that so many entry-level jobs are now taken up by fully grown adults who have come here from overseas, you go to a Tesco or something like that in the middle of a... well, middle of a city like we are now. Once upon a time, it would have been stuffed entirely by younger people starting out. Maybe it's a weekend job, they're 16, 17, 18, they're getting on the ladder. That's not the case anymore. It's all done by people, fully grown adults, usually from India, who have come here on, you know, skilled worker visas. Why on earth would young people then not go on the dole? Because it pays almost as much as those jobs do, but you're competing with people who've got how many years' worth of experience, and we're told are here to prop up the economy.
I completely
it doesn't work.
And I go further, and I've had this discussion with Nigel Farage privately. There's 8 million people on PIP or whatever it is, and I every time I have this discussion, people will ring the show and they'll say, "What about the genuine ones?" I'm not talking about the genuine ones. I'm talking about the hundreds of thousands of people of that 8 million. I'm going to call it 2 million. Who are long-term unemployed, who have absolutely no desire, they have absolutely no feeling that they should go to work. I would say to them, and Reform talked about this some weeks ago, but I'd go further. I would say to those people, rather than just sending me some sort of computer printout to say you've got anxiety, not only, yes, good, right, Reform, you're going to be seen face to face, but whilst you're long-term looking, I'm closing my borders, and all those jobs that apparently we had to have an influx for, not doctors and bloody surgeons before you start on me left, I'm talking about hospital porters, working in supermarkets, fruit pickers, whatever you want to say, you're going to do that, mate, in return for your dole. Do you know why? Because I want something back for what I'm shelling out to you on a weekly basis.
I've got to be honest, though, even the doctors and nurses thing irritates me. It irritates me that we import doctors and nurses from the third world who we've not actually paid to train. You know, we've just decided to take them.
You're starting me on my favourite subject. You know what I would do to these doctors, and they get really arsey with me about this?
Go on.
Absolutely, I'll pay for your training, and I don't expect any money back, but you're going to sign a goddamn 10-year contract. You're not going to Australia. You're going to stay in this country and provide the medical training that I've just paid you for.
We need...
payback.
Yeah, I mean, this is but there's another part to this problem, which is, of course, the doctors themselves, the medical organisations beside this lobby for the limit on places for the number of people that can actually be trained in this country. We should train all our own doctors and nurses. We should not be this is the thing. We've got, as we say, huge numbers of people out of work, young people out of work, many of whom actually are capable of being trained. Because actually, if you look at them, it's the people who then miss out on becoming doctors, who then get shunted down into the next tier of jobs, which, you know, has a knock-on effect. We should be able to train all of our own doctors and nurses here. We should, in fact, be able to export them, as you say, once they've served a certain amount of time, and then say to them, OK, good luck, off you go, do whatever you want, because
but you've got to pay back what I'm invested in you.
Because we are confident in our own supply of doctors and nurses. But here's the other thing. You take doctors and nurses from the third world, OK, those countries are never going to be able to build up their own health services if what we do is just say, hey, come and work in the NHS, you know, because we're then doing the same thing. Our doctors and nurses are not paying back into our system because they leave early. We then take them from... This is a fantastic stat. There are more doctors and nurses from Ghana in the UK than there are actually... I think it's nurses, than there are nurses in Ghana. That's an insane situation. It's morally bankrupt to take... It is a form of strip mining, basically, of those third world countries, but the added, you know, sort of insult on top of that, because even though we're told they will speak English, English is not their first language, they've not been trained in it. That is where a large number of medical mishaps happen. In this country, if you look at one of the leading causes of deaths in hospitals, it is clinical error. What is clinical error? It's when a doctor messes up. It's when they misread the chart and they prescribe somebody the wrong thing, or they misdiagnose something. And then when you look at the numbers of people who are struck off in this country because they make medical, errors, it is overwhelmingly, per head of population, represented by foreign-born doctors because they've not been trained in this country. They don't understand the procedures. They don't necessarily speak the same language. And this is the thing. It's not to say that they're all rubbish doctors, but it's not actually fair to turn around to somebody who's come in from another country, doesn't speak the language, and say, oh, but you're perfectly well qualified, throw them in.
I don't understand, and this started with Blair and continued with the Boris waves. I don't understand why you're saying I'm paying a substantial number of people who could be my workforce. That might not be a career job, but they're going to give me something back whilst I'm paying for them. We're going to leave them and pay them money, and we're going to open the gates to anybody willy-nilly to come here because we can offer them more than they get in their country, which suppresses wages and makes it less inspiring for those people sat on the dole to go to work. It drives me mad. So much response, by the way. 0344 499 1000. Don't forget, Talk World exclusive, and I don't say it lightly, 7 o'clock, Isabel Oakeshott will be here. Nobody else in media land has done this. It's a world first. You'll hear it here from 7. You'll hear and see Nigel Farage leader reform from 8 o'clock. That's going to come down because the sun is shining. This voice note is anonymous. Morning, anonymous.
Morning, Jeremy. I'd appreciate if you don't say my name on this one. I live near one of these migrant camps, and when I see these guys walking around, I mean, it's only something minor, something silly, but something I've noticed, right? None of them are smoking rollies. They're all smoking tailor-made cigarettes. You had a guy on Talk the other day going, oh, they only get £10 a week. They only get £10 a week. How come they're walking around with 20 B&H, which is almost 20 quid a packet? Why the hell should I get up 4 o'clock in the morning, go to work so someone else can have 20 B&H? It's driving me mad. I don't like everyone else saying, mate, what is the point? Why should we go to work so someone else can have 20 B&H?
I love the B&H. He's absolutely right, though. B&H quite strong. But he's right, isn't he? Jeremy, Benedict, how long before we encounter it? How did you say that place in Spain that the Moroccans bumped into? How did we say that? Ceuta. Ceuta. How long do you both think it'll be before a Ceuta-style invasion of 60,000 illegal migrants storm the Kent beaches in an armada of boats, says Roger. Morning, gents. Looking forward to Angry Rob's voice note this morning. I think Angry Rob's been detained and deported. Angry Rob is either on a long-term holiday. I don't know where are you, Angry Rob? 25 to 7, Mary's in Canterbury. Morning, Jeremy. This holiday camp thing has left me literally feeling sick this morning. My son is 19 with autism and learning difficulties. There's no help with post-19 transport because there's no money. So if we can't get him to his special needs colleges, he can't go. But these migrants get everything. Explain to me, says Mary in Canterbury, how the hell that makes sense. It doesn't. Anne in Yorkshire, Jez, and the lovely Mr. Spence. Looks immediately, old Lothario Spence's eyes just raise a little bit. The only good thing about Operation Scatter is that Labour will never get voted in again. When all the Liberals get a dose of illegal immigrant behaviour next door to them, they will be begging Reform to come and save them. But I don't think they will. It would be lovely to imagine all those leafy Liberal heartlands suddenly have HMOs and stuff like that. But it'd be interesting to see how they respond, the Liberals, wouldn't it? Pedro's in Malaysia. I've now, apart from giving away mugs, I've become a sort of, I don't know, Trivago. I am a mug. Pedro here in Malaysia. Jez, sorry to bother you, mate. I know you're busy. Can you please book me into that migrant camp in Essex for 2 weeks? I'd like the back 2 weeks in September, if that's all right. There's the reality. This is terrible, Barry and Sunnyside. This is the lowest message that I've ever received.
Oh, dear.
He says, I'm a West Ham supporter. I've got no teeth, one arm, and this morning I'm so poor I ate gravel for breakfast. Please pity me and give me a left-handed mug. He doesn't surpass the veteran who hasn't got a mug. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't good enough. Dave in Aberdeen, you're still top of the pops. Top of the pops. Rich, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Dominic. The reason why we're coming in the country and our government is treating them so well is because they're an army. You don't put the army in the streets in tents. The majority of them are going into army camps, where they're being treated like army. Good food, exercise, come here, do this, do what they want, jump on a bus, go down, get a bag of chips, do what they want.
two things about that message, Rich. I can't... That was me in the background, but worse than that, he called you Dominic.
I know. Dominic, I think, must be my alter ego. It happens a lot, people call me Dominic.
Do they? Why?
I think it's a
Benedict's
Catholic...
a crap name?
Yeah, it's a Catholic thing. Yeah, I think it's...
You should have been the Pope.
Yeah,
Pope Benedict.
I'd have been a great Pope. What a throwback to the old medieval popes who actually got up to a lot of bother. That would have been one of those.
You'd have been a dirty Pope, wouldn't you,
I'd have been off crusading. I'd have been causing all sorts of mischief.
I love him.
Is what I'd be doing.
Top man, 0344 499 1000. So we're talking about this Wethersfield former RAF base. The leader of Essex Council, the Reform leader, managed to get a pass into there. This is like the ultimate holiday camp. As I go to the break, I'm going to serve you another story. And Benedict, try not to fall off the chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning I've discovered a Sudanese migrant. She married her cousin. She was supposed to be deported. She was here illegally. She's been allowed to remain in the United Kingdom because the judge said she's married to her cousin and sending her home would be a breach of her human rights. I can't do this anymore.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. We're very excited here. I'm not excited. I'm just cool. Been doing it for too long. Let me tell you, in 20 minutes, there is... And I don't actually build this up for the wrong reasons. There are media outlets the length and breadth of this country, and in fact across Europe and the world, that would want to have what we've got at 7 o'clock this morning. Some amazing work from Isabel Oakeshott. Listen, you're going to hear her take on what the story's about, and you're going to see an entire episode later on at 5 o'clock this afternoon. It's on the screen there. Isabel Oakeshott presents. We'll talk more about it, but it is astonishing. We'll get a response straight away from all of you. You'd be involved, because if you think what we're talking about here is shocking, you wait, honestly. So please, wherever you are, try and stay as cool as possible. Manny is in Essex. Actually, never mind. Morning, Jazz. Legal Frenchman here. Did you see what I did there? Did you like that? I've lived in England for 25 years. Why? Always worked. Copper for nearly 20. Good man. Always paid my taxes. Since everyone seems to hate even legal migrants, do I get my money back? You can have my nightmares from my worst jobs. See, that's very interesting. And no, I always want to make that analogy. You have to make the analogy when you're talking about the benefit system, because people genuinely get upset. There are genuine people that I want the system to work for, and I always try to explain that the people that are garnering the system are taking that money away. Likewise, Manny. You work here, you're legal, you pay your taxes. It's a given. And anybody who cannot separate the two, and there are political figures who can't separate the two, is missing the damn point. If you've worked in this country, OK, and paid your taxes, fair play. I tell the story, I'm sure you've heard it before, I'm repetitive, it's an age thing. If I travel late, I get a train, I get picked up by an amazing guy, Kamal, came from Bangladesh. He'd sailed 40 years ago with his father and his two brothers, and his mother and his dad always sat him down and said, language, you set up a business, you respect what you... He's more appalled about illegal migration than I am. Yeah. And I think it's a really salient point.
Yeah, it is one of the funniest things, actually, when you sort of talk to people who have been here several generations. And this is the issue, and it always has been the issue, which is that there are some migrants to this country who in many ways are more British than a lot of people who are actually born here, because they want to buy in to the idea of what it is to be British. They want to work, they want to contribute, they want to start the new life, they want their children to be British, they want them to grow up
And
with
they
British
respect
values.
Britain.
Yeah, and they work hard. And then they see the people coming in who, twofold, ones that come in illegally, but also those who come and are, frankly, not very happy about Britain and talk about the evils of colonialism and this and
Why
that.
are you coming here then?
And it's the biggest slap in the face to those people, because they do get lumped in the same basket. This is when you get sort of a backlash against people and there's a rise in racist incidents, because actually those people feel that they are unfairly tarnished, unfairly branded.
Well, I can tell you categorically not on this station and this show.
Yeah, but this is the key thing, isn't it? That actually the reason why we were able to open our doors to migration, you know, in the sort of the 50s and the 60s, was because there were people prepared to come here and do the work. Now, not all of them were prepared to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there were always going to be problems. But actually, we had the process of having good people coming in, working hard, starting businesses, starting families, putting down roots. And now, because of that hard work that was done by a lot of those people, the floodgates are open and people are told, well, you just have to put up with it. Because, oh, what about the Windrush generation? Or, oh, what about the Ugandan Asians? Oh, what about them? Would you have sent them home? And everybody sort of sat there going, well, of course I wouldn't have sent them home. They came, they worked, they've done an awful lot. That's not the same as somebody from Afghanistan who says, oh, I'm 16, but I've got a beard out here, who comes here and decides, actually, I'm going to deal a bit of weed if I work at all.
Could not agree with you more, my boy. Could not agree with you more. That differentiation. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. See this free holiday camp that the immigrants get to swan around in free of charge. You know, it makes me want to gag, mate. You know, I work about 60 hours a week, along with the vast majority of working class people in this country, and we can't even afford to go on holiday. I can't remember the last time I went on holiday, Jeremy. It's been that long. And these people just come over here free of charge to get to do whatever they want, get loads of free stuff. It's almost as if the government want these people here for some reason. They're not going to stop it, while the rest of us struggle to pay our bills. Our own government's taking the piss out of us. Great show, mate.
Completely agree. I'm sorry, and I'm going to keep saying it and keep playing it. This asylum holiday camp is a joke. Right, I told you before the break, this sums up what we're fighting against. And people, do you know, even in this building, people say to me, you talk about this the whole time. Well, I'm damn well going to talk about it. Listen to this. A migrant has been granted permission to stay in the UK after she married her cousin. The Home Office, hurrah, formally denied Isra Abdallah Ibrahim asylum in the UK, claiming she had only married her cousin so she could join him in Europe once his refugee status was granted. But Ibrahim maintained that the marriage was an Islamic custom overseen in their home country of Sudan years before in 2011. She claimed it would be a breach of her human rights to a family life under Article 8 of the ECHR if she was forced to leave the UK and her husband, and she was granted by a judge yesterday permission to stay. I know, you're looking at me like I've landed from Mars.
She'll get on very well in certain parts of Norfolk and Lincolnshire, but apart from that, it's just...
What about the democratic rights of Sean who just rang? What about the moral rights of all the people that listen to this show who pay their taxes? What about the lack of fairness? And all you get called is you're being far right, not allowing this poor woman to come to this country.
The thing that always sort of irritates me the most is the ones where you've got people who have committed very serious crimes, in particular sex offences, who then, as part of their campaigns to stay in the UK, say, well, you can't send me back to my home country because I'll be persecuted for being a sex offender.
Yes.
And they get away with this, and you sort of sit there and go, oh, my word. You know, honestly, the fact of the matter is, so many of these people, as I say, claim to be here as refugees or asylum seekers. They're claiming that they are running away from something bad, and to then
let's have this. I've never said this before. They're not running away from something bad, so many of them. They're running towards something that's infinitely bloody better than what they're coming away from, and what's worse is we can't afford to give it to them, and that's the reason they're coming. And I don't buy this rubbish. I've just said this to you. I'm sorry, I'm boring myself.
We go back to the start.
Would you bring your wife and kids with you?
Well, of course, that's what.
Well, you wouldn't. You'd be running away from women all over the place.
Bring somebody else's wife. It's not illegal to have a harem in this country, or at least it shouldn't be. But no, this is the frustrating thing. It is that our goodwill is abused, and not just abused in terms of, I don't know, a bit of petty theft or something like that. Actual serious violent assaults have become we hear about these every day. A fresh assault, a fresh incident, somebody being followed, somebody being attacked. There have been murders. And it's the fact that they then turn around and go, you couldn't possibly send me back because they hang people like me in my country, and that would be against my human rights. And there are people who will sit there and go, yeah, no, that's right, we can't send them back. Because
the left-wing activist who said to me the other day, white men rape women as well.
I mean, the irony about that is, of course, if you were to give many people in this country the option, would you hang those people too? They'd say yes. That's the difference. It's not as if we're all sat here making excuses for white rapists or white child abusers. A lot of people in this country are sat here going, well, frankly, whilst we're on this subject, we don't think we go far enough on them. The whole point is that the state has set itself up to prevent that sort of thing going on. And what a lot of people, therefore, on the right, and I say actually on the right, they're fairly ordinary people, what they say is, listen, we have to deal with these people. They were here anyway. They were born here. Why should we be inviting those people? All they're saying is just don't exacerbate the problem.
Absolutely.
Don't use white paedophiles as an excuse
You are
for other
on
people.
fire. I'm in awe of you this morning. Good morning, Derek.
Morning, Jeremy. Derek, West Yorkshire. Great show as per usual from you and Benedict. Regarding the mugs, Mr. Burnham doesn't need any mugs. He's got enough. And he keeps them all in the same cabinet. Can't wait for the exclusive from Isabel. Regarding the camp, well, all we need in there is a camp comic. Then it will be the full Heidi Eye. Take care, keep up the good work.
A camp comment. Hey-ho. Morning, Jez. Morning, the delicious Benedict. Just looking at... I just added that. Yeah. Just looking at the cost of Centre Parks for a 5-day break. Prices start about £1,000. Think I might have to give it a miss. Yeah, precisely. There's your point. I went to Centre Parks 2 weeks ago. Absolutely. Just go to a migrant hotel. Morning, Jez and Benedict. Great show. It's Ian from Australia. Down under, mate. I'm here we go. Honestly, this is from thousands of miles away. I'm ambidextrous. Any chance of a double-handed talkTV mug? If not, could I please have one left-handed and one right-handed? Thanks. And I'm waiting for him to go, I'm only here because my parents were deported 200 years ago, my family.
You can't send it to him. He'll only use it for beer. He's an Australian. They're not to be trusted.
You don't trust the Australian?
Absolutely not. Everything's upside down down there.
Oh, no. So here's a true story. So my old man that everybody knows worked for the Queen Mother for 41 years. When I was 2, many years ago, 58 years ago, he was offered a senior job in the Western Australian government. They sold their house ready to go, and then his parents literally screamed and shouted and cried and begged him not to go. So I'd have been an Australian, mate. Wouldn't that have been a fantastic thing?
I was going to say, what would that have done to you? Would you be more mellow, or would you be more... I don't know.
Do you not think I'm mellow?
I think you can be mellow, but not when it comes to illegal migration, because the issue is Australia had a system for dealing with illegal migrants. They put them on an island in the middle of nowhere.
Actually, for people who don't remember
this... You'd probably be
this,
really laid back, because you'd be like, it's all been taken care of.
It's OK, mate. We'll put another shrimp on the barbie and kick another bite out. But I remember...
They'll get lost in the outback, never have to deal with them again.
I interviewed Tony Abbott, and the interesting thing about Australia is Tony Abbott did something that nobody in this country has done. There was a boat, I remember it, 927 migrants, and he said, I'm terribly sorry you're not coming in. And the world went, yeah, it's outrageous. Do you remember they recoiled in horror? He said, we're stretched economically, education-wise, medical-wise. They held a vote. 90+% of Australian went, good on you, mate. They never had the problem again. When he lost power and Anthony Albanese came to power, a Labour politician, they kept the same policy going. And I've interviewed Tony Abbott, right? Fact. That tells you something. But yeah, I could have been an Aussie. I could have known Samara Gill, mate. I'm unbelievable. No,
imagine that would have been the
double act for
Samara. Double act for the century. This is a strangely cosmopolitan show. We've had somebody from Australia, somebody from Malaysia. We've had a French police officer. We've had all sorts calling in today.
JK and the delicious Benedict.
No, it's not. Stop it.
People on in-work benefits illustrate a fault, in my opinion, within our country. By topping up low pay, we are in effect subsidising private companies to keep pay low, combined with a ready supply of people happy to work for next to nothing. This forms the perfect storm. I think Cliff in Berkshire's spot on.
Yeah.
Jez, if you're taking camp bookings for camp, live like a king. Book us in for this bank holiday weekend, please. Can't afford to take any time off, though, but I will if it's free, says Bruce. So here we go. We've gone from giving away talkTV mugs to booking you into the Wethersfield former RAF base in Essex, where you can get, and I quote, it's great, peeps, honestly. You've got a gym, a football pitch, a snack bar, snooker tables. The food is free. It's all halal. Everything's fantastic. And there's 17 minibuses. on a fantastic timetable that will take you to and from wherever you go in Essex.
I'd love to go to the Wethersfield RAF camp. It sounds like a great time out. Honestly, it's the best holiday that I've not had, and I will be giving it a go at some point. Can recommend.
Alison, bless you. See, this is what I do this show for. I've been sick and disabled for 26 years. I lost my career, my home, my life. I'd happily swap with anyone that doesn't want to work to see if they enjoy being housebound and bedridden every day. I'm in my late 50s and life for me is not fun, trust me, but love listening. Alison, thank you so much. Bless you. Alison's the reason we have a welfare system. Alison's the very reason I'm really happy to pay tax to help her, because she can't help herself, because she's fallen on really bad times and she had everything and lost it through no fault of her own. Alison must lie in her bed wherever she is, listening, sitting in a chair, thinking, what have I done wrong?
And
I'm being... That is it. You know what? She's exactly why we do the show.
But it's really wicked, though, the way in which actually any sort of, you know, questioning of what gets handed out in welfare is immediately turned down to, but what about people like Alison? You're going to take away her benefits? Nobody would want to do that.
No, Alison is the person who should get more bloody benefits.
And this is the thing. Our system was set up, as you say, for that small portion of society that cannot help themselves and actually do deserve compassion and sympathy. The expansion of the welfare state, as you say, is actively taking money away from those people that could be allocated to them. But the size of it now is so much that it's taking away money from other things as well. And that's the problem. You can only have a welfare state if A, the majority of people are working and creating wealth, and B, you recognise that there are certain parameters under which you will fall, and if you fall outside of that, life might be difficult, but I'm sorry, that's just how it is.
How do you think people in the Second World War coped? I always tell the story about the old man because it comes to me every time. When he was in the care home in COVID, and I mean he joked, and I went to see him through glass. I said, "You're right, it's bloody perfect. The women can't run away from here." But he did say to me. It was about 3 weeks in. I said, how are you? He said, fine. I've got 3 meals a day, a beautiful room, and I can sit in the garden. He said, we spent 6 years being bombed, man. We are soft as...
I was not even going to say the war, but the thing is, people forget how much poverty people in this country and elsewhere were in, even in the 50s and 60s.
Absolutely.
Things like, functioning lavatories and stuff like that, still in the outhouse and all that sort of thing, and there was no running water.
The electricity meter, no running water.
Forget hot water.
Honestly, mate.
And the fact of the matter is, as you say, people may do. Now, nobody's suggesting people should be suffering, but what I am saying is the basic standard of living that we have now is more than enough for most people to cope with.
We are soft. And I'm not talking about people who work there. Even me, right? I remember as a kid chipping the ice off the inside of the windows, like on a cold morning to get... I'm being completely serious. It's a joke. Nowadays, it's a UBVC and everybody's... We've lost a bit of that. We've wiped, I think, our own, or have had our backsides wiped to a large degree. That's affluence, I suppose, that's success. But what you've got now is you've got successive governments saying, I know we're skint, we're paying more interest out on debts than we've ever done before. We can't seemingly afford our crumbling public services, but we're going to spend even more money on illegal migration. And my absolute bugbear, ladies and gentlemen, 15 million a year on foreign aid.
15 billion a year.
15 billion a year. Well, I'm having all of that and paying for I'm paying for defence. It drives me insane.
I mean, the nuts thing.
Remember that great speech by Trump's, the best one ever, and he was talking about money. I don't know if you've got it, and he said 60 million to something in Lesotho, wherever that is. Nobody's ever heard of it, and you just went, yes.
Yeah. The thing with that, of course, is that you'll have some people in the Labour Party in particular who will sit there and say it's absolutely imperative that we spend all of this money on foreign aid and international development, and then in the same breath would absolutely insist that child poverty in the UK is up. And you kind of sit there and go, OK, if there are actual children living in poverty in this country, what are you doing sending money overseas? I don't have any problem with helping with international aid and development, as long as the figure for child poverty is a big fat zero in this country.
This is what I want the next leader of the United Kingdom to do when they are elected.
$40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million.
Honestly, everybody laughs at that clip, but it's brilliant. Benedict, I have got such a busy morning. You are a legend, mate. We want to make it regular. You're fantastic. Mr. Spence, we're returning next week. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm off for a holiday in Lesotho.
Are you?
Lovely.
Have a lovely time, sedentary-wise. So stand by. We've been promising this for the last however many days. A talkTV world exclusive. Isabel Oakeshott will be here after the news at 7 o'clock. I can't say any more, but I promise you this. Every single news network across the land is going to pick up this story because nobody has done it. At 8 o'clock as well, Nigel Farage, leader reform, live and exclusive on Talk. All of that after the news at 7. Get your calls in 0344 499 1000. Your text to 87222. Isabel Oakeshott is next. I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since. And now you're back here because being faintly associated with the royalty, however tarnished that might be, is going to finance you and your family's lifestyle. To me, that's hypocrisy at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's never really worried them in the past. I mean, this is just another business opportunity. Things haven't worked out in the States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The entire city is being overwhelmed, and there are people who bear direct responsibility. Those responsible are the national government, led by Pedro Sanchez and his ministers, as well as Mr. Marlaska, and of course, the European institutions, which have completely failed in what's supposed to be the European Union's external border.
Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
Well, Morocco, of course, is hosting the next World Cup. I mean, are we suggesting that...
Oh, don't start me on the World Cup. We'll get
the country that is hosting the next World Cup is too unsafe. It's so unsafe.
Oh, great point.
That people have to cross continents to come to Europe. And of course, I have seen personally examples of this. People come from Morocco into Spain, across to the mainland, up France, through the south of France, up to the north of France, where they reach Calais and then eventually come to the UK.
It is a cause for concern, and we are making contact with the Spanish government, the Spanish authorities, to provide support, but also to understand the implications of that situation.
Some of you might remember a poster I put out 10 years ago called Breaking Point, where I showed vast numbers illegally breaking into the European Union. I made the point that if we vote for Brexit, we'll have the power to stop those people coming here. Sadly, the Tories failed us, Labour have failed us. Believe me, unless we get a reform government, those scenes you're seeing in Spain today, many of those young men, lots of them dangerous, will be heading towards Calais and coming to our country too. It is time to wake up. This is a battle for the future of our civilization. I can't put it any more plainly than that.
When you look at what happened to Spain, they don't know what to do. And it's happening again today. They're coming in by the tens of thousands. They're just invading the country. And what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law. They passed a couple of laws, and people read. You know, people are smart. They read from other countries, and they swam that 3-mile sweat wall, however they got in, but nobody's seen anything like it. That will look good compared to what's going to happen to the United States. The biggest thing, the worst thing that Biden did is allowing 25 million people into our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock. What is it? Tuesday, the 25th of August. You would Talk, the home of common sense, and where you, the alarm clock Brits, come to give us your views on the day's news. We have been building up to this announcement. It is extraordinary. I told you yesterday, I told you today. And I want to say something before I bring Isabel Oakeshott on, because it is the most astonishing piece of work in all my years of doing this that this lady has come up with. And it says something about the work that goes on behind the scenes at this place, because so many people will say, oh, all you do is talk about certain things. We do, because it affects so many people's lives. Whilst you listen and watch what she's going to give you, if you want to be involved as ever, my friends, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. What a build-up. Good morning, Isabel Oakeshott.
Good morning. Well, am I allowed now to say what it is?
Mate, we've been waiting. You know what I'm like with a secret? It's been impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, pin back your logos. Go, Isabel.
Well, good morning, everybody. I have just completed the most dangerous journalistic mission of my career. Working with an undercover reporter who did the really dangerous bit, we have just managed to get ourselves undercover on a migrant dinghy. So an exclusive for Talk, Christian Drogan becomes the first British man to invade his own country without breaking any laws, crossing the channel along with other migrants. This has taken us a year. It has been extremely difficult, extremely high stakes, very, very risky, but I'm proud to say that we've completed the mission. We've recorded everything, lots and lots of extraordinary footage and twists and turns. And nobody has ever done this before, I may say for good reason.
It's extraordinary, peeps, and we're gonna dissect it a bit. Just to point out, the full episode on our YouTube channel, Invading Britain, the undercover migrant returns from 5 o'clock in the middle of drive time with Kev. Isabel will be on with Kev before and after to dissect it, but it is an extraordinary thing. Let's just repeat that. Christian Drogan from Watchman UK and yourself, Talk's international editor, have managed to put together over a really sustained period of time, a British reporter undercover, undetected, breaking into his own country. And for anybody who is at any loss to explain how this country is on its backside, this is living proof. I've got loads of clips, starting with what really was the mission. Can I play this one, Isabel? Is that all right?
Sure.
Our mission was to cross the channel by migrant dinghy and document the process. learning obviously lots of things along the way.
Now, to many people, maybe that sounds simple, but it wasn't at all simple. We actually first came up with this mission almost a year ago. And the first problem was how? How do you get a white guy into a migrant dinghy? Because you stand out a mile with the best will in the world. So talk us through your thinking about how we were going to organise this.
Well, this has taken us a long time to be able to make happen. Now, we've faced all kinds of challenges, including you know, police that want to stop us in our tracks. And the police have just popped the boat nose on and pointed like big guns at everyone. Everyone was running. Armed smugglers. Just trying to really find how you can get into this sort of this line of smuggling without being sort of detected. You cannot just turn up to France, north of France, with some money and get on a boat. They have people planted around the world, and this starts well before France.
You talked about the danger, Isabel, and how long this had taken to put together. Was there any point where yourself and Christian thought, no, this is too dangerous, because this is extraordinary? We're seeing gunshots, we're seeing armed police there, and this is just a flavour. The full episode is extraordinary.
Well, there was certainly a point where we thought, actually, you know what, this is impossible. And yes, there were moments where, you know, I wasn't the one in those migrant camps. I wasn't the one running the gauntlet of those criminal gangs. I wasn't the one who was awake every hour after nightfall, hearing gunshots and fearing that my cover was going to be blown. But I took responsibility for this operation. I led this operation. Christian is not a journalist by background, so this was a team effort. And it was very, very frightening, I think, for both of us, especially for him. But I actually began to think, and I know he did too, that we weren't going to be able to pull this off. We had thought when we embarked on this operation a year ago, I think we thought what a lot of people think, which is that, you know, if you've got money in your pocket, you can turn up in northern France as a migrant and just pay to get on a boat. Well, first of all, as we will reveal in this documentary, we don't think most people are paying for these crossings, not in the conventional kind of way. Now, this is a message I have been talking about before. It's one that doesn't seem to be getting into the heads of our politicians. Once you realise that probably the majority of people in those boats are not paying for their crossing in the normal way, handing over money, that changes everything, because then you realise what they're having to do to pay back their boat fare. So we turned up with money a year ago, thinking that one way or another we could blag our way on. That is not a thing if you've got white skin. Forget it. It took us so much groundwork after that original failed attempt, so much reaching out, building relationships with people smugglers, and working out what is our cover story. Because no matter how much facial hair Christian Drogan grows, he's not a foreigner, he's British. And it's quite obvious to those criminal gangs. They're smart, you know, they weren't born yesterday. They could see that something was off with him. So what is his cover story going to be to persuade them to let him onto a boat? Because naturally they're thinking, well, he's undercover intelligence, he's a police officer. And eventually, after experimenting with various identities, ironically, he was quite often mistaken for a Kurd in the camps. But that doesn't really work for very long when there's lots of other Kurdish people and they start talking in their language. We eventually settled on a cover story which was partly the truth and partly a lie. And that was that Christian Drogan was a criminal, a British criminal, on the run. He'd been in Spain and he now needed to sneak back into Britain by unconventional means. Now, the people smugglers, eventually one of them was prepared to take a risk on him on the basis of this story. So he was not pretending to be foreign. He was pretending to be a criminal just like them. And on that basis, we found one person who was willing to take a chance on him.
It's so difficult to dissect, isn't it? Just to sit here and listen. We've got clip after clip. I begging to ask this question. How do you go about, I'm going to play this, getting a smuggler's contact? How do you... I mean, watch this. This is extraordinary as well, peeps.
How did you get the people smugglers' contact details in the first place? And did you have to try a few?
I did try. I have tried a few. I've tried quite a lot. As I said, the National Crime Agency have messaged me because
What was the message they sent?
Well, they actually messaged me, actually believing that I was a migrant, trying to get over, you know, a non-British migrant trying to get over on a dinghy. Now, what their message says, it gives you a link, it sends you to a government website, which tells you not to cross the channel, basically.
Wasn't very effective in your opinion.
It's dangerous and people die doing it. It's that sort of thing. It's a page on the government website for migrants who are thinking of doing it.
Is it in Arabic?
It's in all different languages.
Right.
You can click on it. It's quite easy to change the language, but you follow the link and it sends you there.
Isn't extraordinary? I mean, honestly, Isabel, I mean, you talk about, and you look at him, Christian, and I met him a couple of times, and you just think to myself, just imagine putting yourself in that position, having that cover story, a criminal returning from Spain, just panicking. Like,
It's a hell of an act to keep up, and one of the most difficult things about it, and in a sense, this tackles another misconception, is that the vast majority of your fellow migrants, if you're trying to get on a boat, and also the people smugglers, speak no English.
Yeah.
Most of the sort of, I'm going to call them travel agents, the foot soldiers that work for the top people in the criminal gangs have a bit of English. But actually what was difficult for Christian was not reaching out to people smugglers. Once you get into that world, there's a lot of them. Even though, in fairness to the Home Office and the National Crime Agency, they've shut down a lot of these accounts. What's difficult then is maintaining communication with them. You know, we don't speak Arabic. I live in the Middle East. To my shame, I'm not yet an Arabic speaker. He doesn't speak any foreign languages. So you're then using Google Translate to message these agents. At some point, you've got to talk to them over the phone. There's a language barrier. And then when you're in the migrant camps and you've got a handler, this is something else people don't realise. Every migrant that gets on those boats, they will have an agent, a handler. You've again got to communicate with them. And we were trying to get as much intel as possible.
Yeah.
So, you know, he spent a lot of time on Google Translate, having these little conversations with other migrants, finding out their stories, because this was an intelligence gathering operation. We weren't there for some kind of, you know, slightly thrilling jolly jape. What we're trying to do here is get the kind of information about who is coming to our country and who is organising all of this, and crucially, what can be done to stop it, short of going to war with the French. Now, you can't get that information with the best will in the world by standing on the beaches of northern France. We've done that too, by the way, with a camera. You know, I think that's good work and it's solid work. And there are plenty of photographers and reporters that go over to northern France, and they're very obviously photographers and reporters. And it's really difficult. They get some pictures of migrants getting on a boat. We've all seen them 1,000 times. And now and again, you'll get something a bit different. We did on one of Christian's failed missions, we got some amazing footage of a boat failing to take off in the night. So you get bits and pieces, but you're not going to get to the heart of the matter. When you're standing there with a camera, no one's going to talk to you. They don't. They're suspicious.
So his cameras were hidden, right? His cameras were hidden. And I mean, just imagine.
This was crucial to our operation.
I've never seen such a response. You'll love this. Hats off to Isabel and Christian. Extremely brave. Cannot wait to watch it. For people tuning in, this is a Talk World exclusive. British undercover reporter Christian Drogan, in association with Isabel there, has become the first journalist to cross the English Channel in a migrant dinghy this afternoon. 5 o'clock. The undercover migrant migrant returns invading Britain. Exclusive on Talk. Listen to this. This has made me tear up. Respect to Isabel and Christian, says Debbie. Gary, hats off. Extremely brave. Can't wait to watch it. Gary's in Brecon. Mags, please send a copy of Isabel's report to Andy Burnham and Shabana Mahmood. If this is not a wake-up call to him and his pathetic government, it's a clear sign that he has to act now. Start listening to what the British people are doing. Brendan, amazing work from Isabel. Congratulations, everybody. The truth of the matter is, you're right. This isn't some... it wasn't some attempt to you know, strike a chord. This is about trying to get to the root cause of how something that is, and we've talked about this repeatedly, you and I, something that is causing so much unrest, so much financial hardship, so much division that something needs to give in terms of illegal migration. We were doing a story this morning is about the Wethersfield former RAF base. It's like a bloody holiday camp. And you've got Christian there with an alias over a year going through all of that and breaking into his own country, which is extraordinary. I want to show another clip. There's so much of this. I cannot wait. I never watch, talk or listen, but I will at 5 o'clock. The dinghy, getting on the dinghy. Have a look at this clip, peeps. This is extraordinary as well. It's all extraordinary.
I pulled myself, I managed to get a lift onto the dinghy, and it was just absolute chaos. Chaos, chaos, chaos. Yeah, push. Yeah. Ready, both hands, go. Come on, we got you. Come on. We got you. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry. Don't panic. You know, there's people almost drowning in the water trying to get to the boat. They've got no idea how to swim. They've got no life jacket. There's people screaming on the boat. There's kids screaming on the boat. I've never seen chaos like it. It was just, you know, I'm sort of on this boat thing. Someone's going to get killed there.
I mean, the important thing to say is there is even more footage in this documentary, but I don't want to throw a spanner in the works at all. I've had a response from the Home Office, and as the First Lady of Talk, I'm going to watch your face and get you to respond to this. We've just received this statement, ladies and gentlemen. This individual's actions were reckless. They made it more difficult for law enforcement officers to stop small boat crossings and save lives in dangerous conditions. Our partnership with France is stronger than ever, with a new deal signed by the Home Secretary, delivering a 40% uplift in boots on the ground. Together, we are piling the pressure on the criminal gangs and preventing illegal and dangerous crossings. Over 1,100 boats or engines have been seized since the election. 48,000 crossing attempts have been prevented, and the number of small boat crossings are down. That's the Home Office, Isabel Oakeshott.
Well, how embarrassing for them on so many levels. If they think that our actions were reckless, I wonder why they've asked for a meeting for us to share our intelligence with them, A. And B, I'll tell you what's reckless, Shabana Mahmood. I'll tell you what's reckless, Andy Burnham. That is continuing to allow this absolutely scandalous, dangerous, cruel trade to continue across our channel. What is reckless is continuing to import tens of thousands of people. We have no idea who they are, and we will be showing you in this documentary just how few checks are carried out before they are released into the community. We don't know what their intentions are. I can tell you that the person who was driving the boat that Christian got over to the UK was speaking Farsi. That is an Iranian language. That's what's reckless. I find it absolutely outrageous that the Home Office should seek to suggest that anything we did wasn't incredibly, meticulously planned and executed. And the idea that we in any way impeded what little they are doing is a complete nonsense. What you actually see in the footage we are showing now is Christian Drogan saving somebody. You can see that with your own eyes now. There was a woman on that boat who was about to be crushed to death. Being the leader that he is, he pulled her to safety. So I'll be having none of that from the Home Office.
Listen, neither me. And of course, you wouldn't have been doing the piece of work with Talk if you hadn't actually worked out, as we all have, that there's a massive, massive problem. When we talk about systems, and Christian has done, you know, you hear over the years, don't you, about undercover work. This is extraordinary. And what this does is this proves categorically what we've all said for so long, that governments, successive governments, do not have an angle. And let's just repeat what you just said. They've requested a meeting with you, the Home Office, have you? That while sending out a statement like that, they want to see what you got.
So it's probably like all these things with governments. One arm doesn't know what the other arm is doing. Yes, they've requested a meeting with Christian Drogan. I'd be delighted to attend that too, but he's the one who actually lived this minute by minute, and quite right too, they should talk to him because I believe that he probably knows more about this, well, certainly than anyone sitting on their backsides at a desk in the Home Office. And, you know, we see politicians like Andy Burnham, who's the greatest risk they've ever taken in order to find out what's really going on here is to go down to Dover in a ministerial car and stand around an empty inflatable boat. You are kidding me. Could you not even be bothered to get into France to go and talk to some of the people that are involved in this? We've seen Chris Philp, again, the shadow Home Office Minister. Good. It's great that he's gone to a French beach and stood there with a camera. Brilliant. I'm not suggesting he could have got in a migrant dinghy, but this is scratching the surface. I cannot tell you how much I care about this subject, and as does Christian Drogan, and how many voters across our country are utterly despairing about this continued invasion. This is the single most important thing to me politically, is that we somehow keep exposing what an utter disgrace it is, what a threat to national security this is, and the safety of our own people. And we are not going to stop exposing that. And yes, it's embarrassing for the Home Office. No, we're not suggesting anyone else tries this. I want to be really clear about this. As I said, this is not a jolly jape, people. It is really properly dangerous. Do not try to do it. I know there are YouTubers out there who might think that they could do this. It's really difficult. It's incredibly expensive as well.
Can I jump in? There's loads I want to ask you. I completely agree with you, and I think that warning is brilliant. And if any sort of politician worth their salt would say, wow, incredible, come and have a meeting, I want to learn from you. There is absolutely, everybody can tell that there is not the desire, the will, the fearlessness to deal with that. What you and Christian have done is unbelievable. Lots I want to ask you. How much, if you're prepared to say, did he have to pay for that seat in that boat?
I'm very open about this. I paid this, so if there's any comeback, bring it on to me. We paid 1,400 euros in cash. We have the footage of one of our agents counting out the money. But as I've said, and this is so important, most people aren't paying.
What did you mean by that? That was my next question. You said at the beginning of this, so many of these illegal migrants are not paying. I mean, if you don't want to say until later, but I'd love to know, how are they paying in kind later? What are they having to do?
So they are either providing services on the French side or they're providing services on the UK side. I think it's more common that they are providing services to the criminal gangs in France, because once they get to the UK, it's a bit harder for the criminal gangs to keep control of them. They've effectively been, they're in their migrant hotels and their accommodation, and they can essentially melt into society. But this is slave labour, effectively. And I want to say this too, and I know Christian will make this point. We met lovely lads on this operation. They come from, the truth is, they're not fleeing war and terror immediately. Many of them, it's actually taken them a matter of years to get as far as northern France, and they've been through Turkey, and they've lived in Germany, and they've lived in different countries. So this is a choice to come to Britain. But what I will say is a lot of these are young lads who have come from horrendous backgrounds. They've lost their parents in war, etc., etc. They're in their 20s and they're looking for a new life. And I don't blame them for that. But they have nothing much to offer this country. They don't speak a word of English in general. They don't have any professional skills. And I'm afraid a lot of them are desensitized to extreme violence. And we see that, for example, on their, even just on their WhatsApp pictures. Christian has numbers of these guys, and they've often got, you know, balaclavas on, they show guns. That's what we're importing, folks. Make no mistake. We've yet to meet any nurses, any doctors and engineers. That is not what is going on here.
Extraordinary response. Isabel is outstanding, telling the Home Office exactly what needs to be said and what is on the minds of all of us normal Brits. When will, says Phil in Devon, the government wake up? JK, congrats to Isabel and Christian. Watch, because there was 2 women on the boat. They'll use that as justification. They can't. Joanna, thank God for Isabel and Christian. The Home Office saying it was reckless. Is that the best they can say? What it proves is how big these migrants think this prize is at the end of crossing the Channel. Mark, hats off to Isabel and Christian. Labour can do one. Liars. Here's a question for you, Mary in Canterbury. Ask Isabel, having worked on this for a year, having worked with Christian, this extraordinary footage, all to be shown in full detail from 5 o'clock on the YouTube channel. Do you think, Isabel Oakes, says Mary in Canterbury, that the boats can ever be stopped?
I absolutely think the boats can be stopped, and what it takes is leadership from our politicians and determination and actually wanting to stop it. Christian and I have concluded they don't actually want to stop it.
Yeah.
They're not that bothered. And there will, later in the week, we'll be bringing you some simple ways in which this could be mightily disabled, at least, without even having to have a row with the French. There are simple things that can be done that Christian will talk through later in the week.
Yeah, he's going to be... Can I just make the point? Sorry, he's going to be on at 9 o'clock with me this morning as well, so we'll talk a bit more with him. But absolutely. Sorry, I just want to make that point, Isabel.
I just want to say, because I'm not sure how much longer we've got.
As long as you want.
There was an extraordinary twist in that footage that we've just shown you there of the complete pandemonium on the boat where this lady almost gets crushed to death. What was actually happening there is that the driver of the boat, who didn't have many boaty skills, I mean, he will have been not paying for his passage across the channel, was struggling to get the engine going while all this was happening. So the engine is kind of roaring in the background and then kind of petering out. All the while there's complete chaos. And in an unbelievable twist, the one time that the French actually pop a boat, it is the one that Christian is on.
What, they slashed it? They slashed the boat?
So that boat that you see him on there, just when we thought that we had pulled off this mission, after a whole year, we finally thought he's on his way to Britain. By the way, he discarded everything, his shoes, it had all come off. You know, he had pretty much just the clothes he was wearing. The footless migrant was on board, ready to bring this great exclusive. And you wouldn't believe it, the migrants couldn't get the boat started. And in all the faffing around, a gendarme did what the gendarme never do and came bowling into the water with a sharp instrument and popped the boat.
So what did Christian do then? They had to wait for yet more days. They had to get off there and start again.
Exactly that. I mean, my big fear then was, well, I had twofold fear. One, that the French police are actually going to do this properly and stop everybody as they come off the boat, check them, detain them, and his passport is going to be discovered, because we decided that he should, we had at that point, he had his passport on him. Later on, we changed the way we did this. So we were worried about his passport being found. If they realised he was British, then that is the end of our mission. They would have probably arrested him. They'd certainly have detained him. And that would have been another failed attempt. So that was worry number one. Worry number two was that, you know, 1,400 euros had just pretty much gone down the drain into the pocket of some scroty criminal. And that we
scroty criminal, my favourite line of the morning.
That we would never get our pennies back. You know, this isn't Trainline after all. If there's a sort of accidental cancellation or derailment, you know, you can't apply for a refund. But to our astonishment, well, we weren't very astonished. The French police did nothing more. So
do you think that was token by the French because it had stalled, that it looked good to just do that rather than put any effort into chasing one?
we've got to talk to Christian about this, but he believes that was total theatrics. He thinks that was, we can't prove this, but he believes that was probably one that the smugglers, some higher ups, decided to give the French police. He will tell you, because Christian knows about boats, that engine was never going to get that dinghy anywhere near the midway line. It was totally inadequate for the job. And he thinks that they just sort of now and again, they will give the French something. What I can say is that when the government talks about, yeah, we've stopped the boats, here's one we popped earlier. Well, they're not stopping it, they're just delaying it by a few hours or a few days, because much to our surprise, Christian was offered another chance. 24 hours later, he was finally on his way to Britain. This time, we didn't take the risk of having him have his passport on him. He left his passport in France. You can imagine the palaver that there then was when he finally gets to Britain.
Well, I want to ask you about that, but where did he leave his passport?
Well, so again, something that we learned from previous missions is that we actually took a car to France this time. This is something he will talk very powerfully about, is just how many miles you cover on foot as a migrant, going between different potential launch points. You get pushed from pillar to post. It's go here, go there, go a bit further. Oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Can you just go back again? He was clocking up to 18 miles a day on foot. So, you very soon develop what he calls the sad migrant walk, which is basically a lot of blisters. So this time, to try to optimize our chances, we actually took a car over there. And we decided to leave his passport in the car at the final leg of the mission, because we didn't want it being damaged, being lost, and that would have caused him all sorts of grief.
I want to ask you about how he was dealt with once he got here in one tick, but this is brilliant from Matthew Wally, and it's something that I was going to ask. He says, this is truly amazing work by Isabel and Christian. Can you ask her, please, are you worried about any legal ramifications or backlash from the government or a knock on the door from the police?
Look, you've always got to think these things through. We are not reckless journalists. We work all of this stuff out. We look at the ethics of doing something like this. We don't want in any way to be seen to be helping the smugglers. Christian, whilst he knows a lot about boats and far more than it seems generally the drivers of those boats, he was absolutely adamant that he was not touching the controls of those vessels, even if it, unless it was a very life-threatening situation. He was not going to touch the engine of that boat, because we do not want to be accused of having helped in any way. If anyone wants to come after me on this, I would say bring it on. The British people, I think, will be full square behind myself and Christian. Good luck to them if they want to come after us. I believe we are on extremely solid ground. I can't think of any more powerful public interest case for an investigation than this, because unless we went undercover, we are never going to be able to bring you the truth of what is really going on.
I think it's an extraordinary piece of work, I really do. Here's my question that so many people have asked. Let me repeat, by the way, 5 o'clock tonight on the Talk YouTube channel. It's extraordinary. Invading Britain, the Undercover Migrant. You get it for a whole hour from 5 till 6, and then you'll be able to watch it because it's brilliant. How was... So he's in the dinghy. He saved that woman. We've had the slashing and we've got back on. How long did it take to get across the channel?
Oh, my goodness, forever. So I had a tracker on him, as did his mother, by the way, his lovely mother, poor woman, probably absolutely not sleeping a wink. So we had trackers on him. And at one point, well, we basically lost him. We could sort of see his migrant dinghy on the tracker just near the French coast, and you could see it getting a little bit further out. And then it just sort of stopped. And hours went by, and I'm thinking, well, where is he? How far has he got? Has someone taken his phone? What's happened? And he will tell you the truth is that the people smugglers take battery packs from the migrants. This is currency. So he did run out of battery. This was a problem, but we did see it coming. We had multiple recording devices. In fact, when he got to the other end and we finally reconnected, he said, "I'm so sorry. I think that I don't think that my camera worked for the bit where I'm picked up by border force." And I just had my head in my hands. I was like, this cannot have happened. We need this evidence. We need it. And then fortunately we found one of the backup
Well, that is my next question. So he goes on the boat, he gets here. Tell me what happened with the UK border force when they were ushered in. Was he found out? How was he treated? Were they appalled? Were they decent? What happened?
Well, because we haven't got much time, I'm going to say something very important quickly. That is, border force really impressed us.
Okay,
we were taken by surprise by how good they were, how sharp they were. They are not mucking around. They are operating within the parameters that they are set by our stupid, spineless leaders. So they can only do what they can only do. But what we saw of them, we were really impressed by. So you can see there, for anyone who's watching it, the border force vessel coming up alongside the migrant dinghy. And what they do is they shout, "Can anyone speak English?" And of course, Christian at this point is keeping his head down because we wanted to extend this investigation as long as we could. Now, we were not going to go into a migrant hotel. Other people have done that. We've got undercover stuff from migrant hotels. We were not going to abuse taxpayers' money in any way like that. But we wanted to see what happens at the processing point on arrival. So he kept his head down. But all credit to Border Force. The minute they basically ran their eyes over who's on this boat, Christian with his sunburn and his rather nice watch. It's a sort of nautical watch. We wanted it because it could show us what speed things are going at and so on. Immediately caught their eye. So as they're throwing the rope and bringing the boat alongside and they're pulling the migrants up one by one, and you can hear this Border Force guy, I mean, you don't mess with him, he's shouting, "Get in line, wait, you lot, stop pushing." You can hear that. And then Christian comes along and they're like, "You're on the wrong boat, mate." Like that.
So they dealt with him decently. I mean, listen, I could talk to you forever. People are saying, where can I see the programme? You can see it tonight. It's dropping at 5 o'clock on Talk's YouTube channel. I can't really put into words how impressive I think this is, Isabel. You know what I think of you personally. I think this work that you and Christian have done for Talk is utterly extraordinary. And just a takeaway from the 40 minutes that we've spoken to, the incredible time that it took, the trepidation that you both must have felt, the intricacy of these smuggling gangs, the fear, the expectation of the migrants coming here, and to then be met by this comment from the Home Office, it's reckless. No, it's extraordinary journalism, which. I want to finish with something because I'm not into conspiracy theories, but it does make you think about, what. Yeah, Jeremy, can you now see that this is all arranged? The Home Office condemning what Christian did as reckless speaks volumes, says Lee in Margate Harbour. I don't think any of them want to ever sort this mess out. It's interesting.
Well, what they're worried about is more embarrassing things like this. I don't mind that they've called it reckless because I know it wasn't. I live for this stuff. So does Christian. We love doing work like this. We've got so many other plans. But folks, please support us in this. Talk has been so brilliant in projecting what we do. Between us, we have our own investigations operation. It's called Watchman. You can go online and look at it and do support us. We do this all for nothing, basically. We do it because it's our way of trying to make things better. People will know that my partner is a politician. I'm not a politician. This is my way of trying to help. And no one is going to stop me and Christian doing this kind of work. We've got to keep going. We are prepared to take risks. They're going to be calculated risks. We are not reckless, but there is so much more to uncover. And just one more thing I need to tell you, folks.
Of course.
There is an extraordinary news angle to this. The whole thing is, I'm so glad that people are enjoying it and are finding it interesting. I don't want to give it all away this morning.
Give me a little bit.
let's just say we have captured on film the French police doing something that I had no idea was happening. It is truly scandalous.
It
what
is,
they're doing.
and I mean,
They're not doing nothing. For once, they're not doing nothing. But let's just say they're being a little bit over helpful.
I think it will lead. I think it will lead to absolute justification for what I've been saying for months. Why, in the name of God, are we giving the French 500 million quid? I know you're going to have a manic day. This is going to be picked up by every network and every media outlet. You'll be on Talk later as well with Kevin O'Sullivan. Building up to this, it is exclusive to Talk, and it is on our YouTube channel from 5 o'clock. I don't know what to say. I want to give you hugs. Amazing work. Thank you so, so much. Isabel Oakeshott, we'll speak to you very soon. Brilliant, brilliant work. On at 5 o'clock, and with Kev on Drive before that, Isabel Oakeshott, Christian Drogan, the undercover migrant returns invading Britain. Nobody else in any media sphere has ever managed that. A reporter we got to come back to invade his own country, and we got the footage. Extraordinary. Tim, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Tim from Birmingham. The only reckless part about all this is the goddamn government not listening. That's the reckless part. They need to listen now. As for Christian and Isabella, give them both a medal. Mom and Sir on the rise. Well done.
Go to Calais train station?
Yes, train station.
Okay. I was gaping. It was brutal. Come on, guys! Ready, full touch, go on! And they're on the way over to UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Astonishing piece of work. David Andrews, a very good morning to you. Loads of people responding to this. A Talk World exclusive. Isabel Oakeshott and Christian Drogan. Over several months, managed to invade this country for Talk. Literally undercover. It is extraordinary. The footage this afternoon will be live. We'll drop it at 5 o'clock on the Talk YouTube channel. Isabel will be with Kevin from 4. Christian Drogan, the man himself, will be with me after 9 o'clock. And in 15 minutes, Nigel Farage, leader of Reform, a man who has been going on and on about illegal migration for more years than anybody else can remember. And to be honest, everything he said turns out to be absolutely true. He'll respond as well. Quickly, let's say hello and good morning to the former Immigration Minister, former Tory MP for Torbay, Kevin Foster. Kevin, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy.
Did you see that?
Well, I haven't seen the footage yet. I'm looking forward to seeing the full thing at 5 o'clock. It's certainly going to be a fascinating insight into this world and perhaps bring home some of the truths to people who regularly query about why we need to deal with this issue, about the fact that this isn't just nice people offering to give people a ride to Britain. These are organised criminal gangs, and the money they make out of this trade goes to fund all sorts of things that many of us would rather they didn't. Plus the violence and disorganisation and crime that's been brought to the part of Calais.
I mean, it's interesting to me that the Home Office's response, which you received half an hour ago, was to say, and I quote, "This individual's actions were reckless. They made it more difficult for law enforcement officers to stop small boat crossings and save lives in dangerous conditions. Our partnership with France is stronger than ever, with a new deal signed by the Home Secretary delivering a 40% uplift in boots on the ground. Together, we are piling the pressure on the criminal gangs and preventing illegal and dangerous crossings. Over 1,100 boats or engines have been seized since the election. 48,000 crossings have been prevented. The number of small boats crossings are down." A good friend of mine just texted and said, "Awesome radio." He said, "I'd replace the word reckless with embarrassing for anyone who has served in government in recent years and has not done anything about this." And I have to, I'm not having a go at you, put that to you as a former immigration minister. This is an absolute disgrace nationally.
Well, Jeremy, I was one of the ones who came up with the Rwanda plan and the third country option. I can remember all the criticism we faced from the then opposition, who scrapped it on day one, and there's now left them with a reality that some people coming from certain countries where France won't take them back, they can't realistically return them to their home country, or they don't want to return to a country like Afghanistan, means we have no option, even if we turn down their asylum claim, as to where we actually deport them to. So I will say, I think the Home Office statement, I can understand why they put out a statement like that, but in reality, one person infiltrating a gang to show how this process works is hardly going to have, disrupted the border force operation, given the overall numbers coming in. And whilst numbers are down this year, and they'll point to the percentage level, we should remember that's partly because they shot up after the 4th of July 2024, as things like the Rwanda plan and some of the other things that were in place by the Conservative government were removed by this one. But look, Jeremy, I'm the first to say we should have gone further in government. I'm not going to try and pretend that all what we did then was perfect, particularly on looking at this sort of Gordian knot of international law that the people in the boat that we're seeing the footage of now will be looking to exploit, but fundamentally economic migration reasons. You don't need to flee France for safety, and having travelled through most of the EU, where you could have made an asylum, human rights or any other claim that you could make here.
I thought it was interesting as well, Kevin, you've been at the forefront of this and we so appreciate your involvement. And actually the one thing that's come out as well, there's lots that's come out, and I'm going to release with Nigel Farage at 8 o'clock an extraordinary fact about the French police. But he had nothing but compliments, Christian Drogan, to say about Border Force, which I thought was quite enlightening, because I think it's probably quite easy. We criticise the police when they seem to mess up. We criticise Border Force. There's also probably a lot of good people trying to do a very, very difficult job in incredibly difficult circumstances.
Yeah, Border Force at the end of the day are doing what they can. Now, people criticise them for intercepting boats and bringing them in. The reason they do that is so that we stop what are called, uncontrolled landings on the UK. Because if people can jump off at a beach, that gives the opportunity to just sort of run off and disappear. Whereas Border Force's goal is to get basically biometrics of everyone in those boats. They'll process them. Sometimes people are identified who are a direct threat to this country. Other times people are identified who had a previous immigration history here in the UK and are now lying that they come from a country where they can't be returned to, whereas perhaps their home country they could be returned to, or it's a place where they would not get asylum from. So, Border Force do work quite a bit. They do experience violence. At times they have to use force to take facial photos and fingerprints from people, which they are able to do. But, it ultimately, the solution isn't just being tougher in the channel. You've got to look at the whole process, from reforming the law, which desperately needs to be done, to how we then remove people. So actually that's some of the real solutions here, because, that's what's driving people, is the fact that if they get here, even if we turn down their asylum claim, there's a very slim chance of being removed. I think it's only something like 7% of small boat arrivals have been removed. That's what's driving this trade.
Kev, it's always great, mate. I love your honesty, and I mean that. I really, really appreciate you joining us this morning. Kevin Foster, former Conservative MP and Immigration Minister, 10 to 8. If you haven't heard the word exclusive, Isabel Oakeshott, Christian Drogan managed to become, he did, the first British reporter ever to break back into Britain under the cover of being an illegal migrant. It's extraordinary footage. It's live tonight from 5 o'clock on our YouTube channel. Christian Drogan will be here at 9 o'clock with me. Also, Nigel Farage, who has been talking about this problem for years when nobody else was, will be live and exclusive in this studio from 8 o'clock. James, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. James from Hull here. How riveting, how brave was this investigation with Isabel Oakeshott and Christian Drogan regarding self-smuggling back into the UK? I've heard what the Home Office have said about it apparently being reckless. But let me just tell you my thoughts. The only thing reckless about the situation, and the only thing reckless, is what the government are doing to feed the cancer that is the illegal migration which is coming into this country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8 minutes to 8, that world exclusive. The undercover migrant invading Britain, Christian Drogan. It is live on our YouTube channel from 5 o'clock. Christian will be here from 9. Nigel Farage after the news at 8. Live and exclusive right now. Political commentator, great man. Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Rafe Heidelmann-Coup. Rafe, good morning.
Good morning. What a great coup for Talk, and congratulations to Christian Drogan and Isabel. Brilliant stuff. And I'm just amazed it's taken this many years for anyone to do what they've done so brilliantly.
I agree with you. And it does, you know, the extraordinary thing about it, Rafe, is the sort of grittiness, the fear, the not knowing what's going to happen comes across so well in the hour-long programme. And, you know, kudos to him, kudos to her. But, you know, living in that tent, walking miles, it was going to happen, boat slashed, off you go, for fear the whole time you're going to be found out. But it does say an awful lot about how widespread, how organised, how fearful, how actually nobody in successive governments, whatever that has, got a handle on this at all. And then for the Home Office to call it the individual's actions were reckless. What, reckless telling the British people just how deep-seated the problems are? I don't think that's reckless.
Well, the people who are being reckless are the Home Office itself. I wrote a chapter in a book recently about how to control immigration, and one of the key conclusions I had was that we need to remove immigration from the Home Office. The Home Office is not fit for purpose when it comes to controlling our borders. They have failed miserably. We have to accept now that there's also a fifth column within the Home Office who have no desire to get a control of immigration, be it legal or illegal. We need to create a new Ministry of Immigration. This should be something that a new government does. A new Ministry of Immigration, completely separated from the Home Office, and staff it with people who are dedicated to the task of finally getting a handle on all of this. Because, you know, one of the reasons that there's such a big pull factor is that the Home Office have the highest levels of approval rates for asylum in Europe. We approve 62% of asylum applications are approved by the Home Office if you include successful appeals. It's only 12% in Spain. Why can't we be more like Spain? Even in France and Germany, it's only around 40%, not 62%. And what really happens, and we know that this is a real reason people come over, is people will apply for asylum in Germany, in France, or in Spain. They'll be rejected there. And so then they'll come to the UK because they know that even though Europe doesn't want them, there's a chance they will still come here. And Eritreans, Somalis, Sudanese, Syrians, the Iraqis, they all come here for that reason. And these, of course, are the countries with the highest rates of criminality when they come here, the highest rates of sexual assault. We're the most countries that come over here are the ones that we want least of.
I thought of you the other day, actually. I was interviewing, try and give it as much balance as possible, with Sam Rushworth, a Labour MP, Bishop Auckland. And he let the cat out of the bag, in my opinion. He said, well, all of them speak English. And I went, but we spent £100 million on interpreters last year. And then he delivered the coup de grace. He said, he didn't say we deserve it, but he said it's because of colonialisation. We almost do deserve what's happening to us. Until the political class, as I call them, understand that this is... I mean, I said this earlier, I haven't got long. I believe the silent majority really are at the end of their tether with this. The impact of on their lives, public services, the cost of living, they look at this, they look at that camp today, the Wethersfield former RAF base, like a bloody holiday camp for migrants, and they go, they ring me in their droves. Why am I working? Why am I paying tax? Why am I staying within the confines of the law? It's unfair, Jez. That's what they say every day.
Yes, and ultimately, that is the most fundamental British value, isn't it? Fair play. We even have an expression in the English language, it's just not cricket. And this really sticks in the craw when they see the treatment that they're getting with these holiday Butlin camps that they're going to, when they see asylum seekers and others piggyback over British people on the housing waiting lists and so forth. And of course, for too long, the working classes have been deemed racist for calling attention to this. But of course, they've done this because they're living at the coalface. They see the dark side of this on a daily basis. Their communities have been completely changed. And perhaps the one good thing of Labour's proposal of dispersing migrants to more affluent parts of the country, to the Cotswolds and elsewhere, is that finally the middle classes, I mean, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but finally those places, because we know from all the polling that the more homogenous an area is, the more white it is, the more open it will be for immigration. It's only when they come face to face with the reality of immigration that the scales come crashing down off the eyes. And so maybe more people will actually join the working classes and the rest of us who have been banging the drum about this for years.
Mate, I'm always in awe when you come on. You're an absolute legend. Sorry it's a quick one today, but delighted as ever. Thank you, Rafe Heidelmanku, political commentator. It's almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Extraordinary work. We'll respond to that exclusive with the leader of reform live in the studio. Nigel Farage is next on Talk Breakfast.
Go to Calais train station?
Yes, train station.
Okay. I was gaping. It was brutal. Come on, guys! Ready, full fast, go on! And they're on the way over to UK.
Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this, and let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year, so that does suggest that the plan is working.
We've just witnessed drone footage of the French authorities handing out life jackets to illegal immigrants and then waving them goodbye as they head on their way towards the UK. So the French are actively helping and facilitating illegal immigration. In addition to that, the French forces did nothing to stop that huge migrant dinghy. In fact, the dinghy came out, then it went back to the beach to pick up even more illegal immigrants and then departed for a second time. During all of that, the French did nothing, and they even handed out life jackets and waved goodbye as these illegal immigrants head towards the UK. I think that's terrible. I mean that anyone who did cross the channel and arrive in Dover could be immediately deported within around about a week.
Give that a second, he's just dragging a line by the look of it.
Is that a warning shot towards us? I don't know.
Well, I was trying to work
Okay. The French officers could clearly see we were conducting an interview on the back of the fishing boat. They sailed extremely close to us and started firing gunshots, 11 live rounds. We could see the bullets hitting the water behind our boat. They weren't firing before their approach. They weren't firing afterwards. There was no notification of any kind of training exercise. So it did seem to me to be an effort to intimidate us.
The thing that I find, and I should say alarm clock Brits find so frustrating, Chris, and this is why I wanted you on this morning. Yesterday, finally, the unelected Messiah of Manchester stood up and said, to consummate fury from most of us, that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This, Chris, despite the fact that 1,000 illegal migrants have still come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister.
Je suis un député dans le Parlement du Royaume-Uni. Why have you allowed the migrants into the water? Why haven't you stopped them?
Our order is to let them go like that.
Your order is to let them go?
We just have to say to them, don't do that, it's dangerous.
So your orders are not to intervene?
We have to protect them.
Well, there's also protecting the border as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, welcome along. Just gone 8 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talk, of course, the home of common sense. And if you weren't with us before the break, the most extraordinary Talk World exclusive. Over the last 12 months, Isabel Oakeshott and Christian Drogan, an undercover reporter. Well, he's actually not a reporter, but he's a man who, talk about brave, managed to do something that no other British journalist has done, which is basically to cross the English Channel in a migrant dinghy and break back into the United Kingdom. And the risks that he took and what he went through is extraordinary. Tonight, 5 o'clock, it'll drop on the Talk YouTube channel in its entirety. It is extraordinary from beginning to end. There is one man politically, and I don't have to be accused of being biased because this is a fact, who has talked about the depth of this, the impact this has had on this country for years. He's been called every name under the sun, so has this channel, but this footage, to me, nails it categorically. Nigel Farage, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, and what an extraordinary piece of journalism. Genuine, investigative journalism, but also the kind of journalism where the guy took an enormous risk. I mean, being a white British bloke in those camps.
Couldn't speak Farsi, was trying to work out what he was going to do.
And remember, these big gang bosses carry semi-automatics, knives, murders are common in the camp. So he took one hell of a risk. The footage, and we've seen clips of it so far, obviously more coming out on the YouTube channel here at 5 o'clock tonight. The footage is really, really epic footage. It absolutely sums up what's happening. And you can see from all of this that really the only people that can even make it onto the boats are young, fit males, just given the whole procedure that they have to go through.
It always takes me back to Darren Jones, the then Secretary of State to the Prime Minister, who looked square down a camera on Newsnight and said, I don't know, 8 months ago, What you're wrong with, he was talking, I think, to Zia Yusuf, 90% of those that come across are women and children. That's fundamentally wrong, Nigel.
Yeah, that's wrong. We also had, particularly the Greens, saying lots of brain surgeons were coming. I mean, you know.
None of them joining the Green Party, I'd like to point out.
These are aggressive, dangerous young males, and there's no other way of putting it. There are some who say, well, could some of them turn into a force within this country, perhaps even an army within this country that's against us at some point in the future? I don't think we're there yet, but the risk remains. What I am certain of, and what I've been saying for a long, long time, and I kept asking Keir Starmer and Shabama Mahmood this in the House of Commons, and it's really summed up here by the journalist Christian Drogan, where he says at the end of the article, this is a national security emergency. That's the exact phrase that I've been using for a very, very long time. It isn't just the threat to girls and women, horrid though that is. It isn't just the massive level of criminality, especially from those that abscond because they're not given asylum but never sent anywhere else. But, you know, I also reported, you might remember, and the Iranians do get a mention.
Well, now this is really interesting because there's footage later that says that they believe that the guy that drives the boat was speaking Farsi, which is Iranian, and at a time with all the problems internationally, right? We are letting unvetted, and you're right. You talk about the sexual angle and the criminal angle. But we could be letting political operatives into our country, and for all the people who for years have gone, oh, come on, there it is.
I hate to say I told you so.
But you did.
But 3 months ago, in Parliament, I said to Mahmood, I have it on very good intelligence that the Iranian regime are now smuggling their operatives into Britain by boat. Do you know what happened? Scores of Labour backbenchers shouted, shame on you, at me, for daring even to say it. And now the proof is pretty conclusive. So we're letting in people, some of whom will commit terrorist acts against us at some point in the future. And the Tory, I can't bear this bloke Chris Philp that appears on these programmes. I mean, he did nothing in government to stop any of this. All they did as a party was come up with a Cook Rwanda plan that couldn't work because the ECHR was being used to overrule it.
They're all talking about leaving the ECHR now, aren't they?
Wow. Do you believe they will?
No.
I mean, I don't.
And I'll be really honest with you, because one of the things that I've always been with you is honest. The one thing I get asked by my listeners every single day is, and I'll put this on you, is how can you believe that you can do that when successive governments have either ignored it or said it's... Let me just read you this, because this, to me, a Sudanese migrant yesterday allowed to stay in the UK after marrying her cousin, the Home Office saying you should be deported, and a judge going it's against her human rights. Easy to sit here and say this, leave the ECHR and sack all these bloody judges who I don't know where they come from, but how do you believe you can leave the ECHR?
Well, no. There's no point sacking the judges, because the next lot of judges that come through will draw exactly the same conclusion, because we have written the ECHR into UK law via the 1998 Human Rights Act. This is British law. Yeah, we can rave about the judges. We can talk about the new methods of approving these judges, but actually attacking the judges is missing the issue. It's the legislation that Blair brought in. That is what has got to go. And until we do that, we've got no chance of solving literally any of it. And from what I can see with Burnham, well, now, basically, what he wants to do is to make sure we have a migrant camp or an HMO in every small village and small town in the country.
It's interesting if that actually happens. I wonder how many liberal, leafy suburbs will end up with an HMO or a hotel. I wonder whether they'll change their opinion.
Well, slowly, some of them will. Trouble is, by the time they all wake up, goodness knows what state the country will be in.
How do we leave the ECHR, my friend?
Dead simple. We amend... Look, what we all forget here is the absolute power that Parliament has if it chooses to use it. All right? You know, this is our constitution, this is the king in Parliament. Whatever Parliament decides to do, when it gets the royal assent and becomes law, that is the law of our land. And you know, we may allow, for half a century, the European Union to tell us what to do, or for now, the European Court of Human Rights, or its incorporation into British law. But, I mean, it's the same with the grooming gangs. A grooming gang inquiry could start tomorrow if Parliament turned itself into a court which it's able to do, and which it did with, do you remember Fred the Shred,
Yes.
the bankers?
Yes.
It turned itself into a court.
I remember Tata Steel, they created a law within 24 hours.
Yeah,
I remember when Starmer said, after the horrors of Southport, he had police on the streets, judges in courts and places in prison within 24 hours. There is no will to do it. I don't understand it.
So
it's simple.
So we call Parliament, we go through, we repeal the Human Rights Act of 1998. Now, we have to get the House of Lords to agree, otherwise they could potentially block it for up to a year, which would enrage the British public. But then I think, let's put it this way. If it was a reform government, and if the House of Lords tried to block legislation that was clearly stated in the manifesto, then I think the time would come for a referendum on the future of the House of Lords.
I've long said it's sort of a safety net, the House of Lords, but the people that go in there now, including 25-year-olds, as a sort of thank you for whatever, to me that's not the idea. You want a balance of older men and women who have experience in different spheres of life, who are not political, who can make a judgment soundly based. Can I just play a snapshot if you're tuning in? Nigel's with us. This documentary is a world exclusive for Talk. It will be on our YouTube channel from 5 o'clock tonight. Christian Drogan of Watchman UK and Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor, spent a year putting this together. This is Christian Drogan pretending to be an illegal migrant, basically smuggling himself back into the United Kingdom. It's extraordinary footage. Ever watched? Little snapshot.
I managed to get a lift onto the dinghy, and it was just absolute chaos. Chaos. Yeah, push. Yeah. Ready, both hands, go. Come on, we got you. Come on. We got you. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry, don't panic. You know, there's people almost drowning in the water trying to get to the boat. They've got no idea how to swim. They've got no life jacket. There's people screaming on the boat. There's kids screaming on the boat. I've never seen chaos like it. It was just, you know, I'm sort of on this boat thinking someone's going to get killed there.
Extraordinary footage from 5 o'clock. Nigel Farage is with me. The Home Office statement this morning won't surprise you. This individual's actions were reckless. They made it more difficult for law enforcement officers to stop small boat crossings and save lives in dangerous conditions. Our partnership with France is stronger than ever, with a new deal signed by the Home Secretary delivering a 40% uplift in boots on the ground. Together we are piling the pressure on the criminal gangs and preventing illegal and dangerous crossings. Over 1,100 boats or engines have been seized since the election. 48,000 crossing attempts have been prevented and the number of small boat crossings are down. Nigel.
There you are. Yes. Yes. How dare you, Christian, for going out into the Channel and potentially wrecking the whole manoeuvre that was going on. Same thing happened to me. When I first went out in 2020, got as close to the boats as I could to film what was going on. We were told by Search and Rescue that we'd entered the Search and Rescue zone. We were endangering lives, and the French Navy said to us over the Channel, how would you like to spend the night in the cells in Boulogne?
That would have been good.
I did think about martyrdom very briefly.
Yeah, but it's extraordinary.
So any attempt to show the truth, and you're told that you're impeding what is going on. Look, here's the point. Even if the French do their job with £1 billion we've given them, even if they do slash the odd dinghy, even if they seize an engine, even if they stop a boat from going, even if they do those things, it makes no difference because they come back the next day. They come back the next day.
You know, Christian did that. They were all ready to go, and the engine in this footage was too small for the boat.
Didn't work.
They slashed it, that's a tick, and he was back.
And then what they do, so they're going to keep coming because the pull factors are enormous here, right? Simple as. But then what he also exposes here, which I think is the most extraordinary part of this article, he exposes that once they had got sailing, they get a mile or two, and some of them want to get off.
Oh, well, this is it. By the way, this is the absolute moment that I just dropped my pen.
Yeah, so this really is the nub of all of it. So they've got a mile or two, and there's a couple of them want to get off.
Want to get off, Pete. Bear that in mind.
Want to get off. Why? Is it because they're seasick? Is it because they're ill? Is it because they've lost their nerve? No. They want to get off because they are actually the traffickers.
Yep.
who've made sure that the operation set sail, they've cashed their hundreds of thousands of euros, and the French Navy then take the traffickers back to shore so they can reassemble at the camps and plan for the next day.
And the truth is, and we've got a clip in a sec, and Nigel is spot on, they get off and they pretend to be, oh, I'm feeling seasick or I'm nervous, and they shake, and the French police help them onto the shore, and then they run into the trees. And this is the biggest thing. French police film picking up people smugglers and dingers at sea and transporting them back to shore so they can start the whole goddamn illegal thing 24 hours later, and we're giving them £500 million a year. Watch this.
The police boat took control of our boat, so it put its bow on our bow, and it turned us round in a circle while they were talking to us. They said, don't go ahead, it's dangerous out there, it's very wavy.
This is very rough. Okay. Here it's quiet. Let's go wider. It's really dangerous. The sea is very rough. Okay, the best way today is to go back.
So the police had said that to us, you know, if anybody else wants to get off, get on our boat, we'll take you back. 4 smugglers, get on the gendarme boat, check for weapons, all okay, sit on the back, we'll take you back. The police, the gendarme, took the smugglers back to the shore.
So effectively, the police are giving the smugglers a free lift back to shore. There's a bit of a fig leaf going on here. Yeah. Oh, you know, a few people need to get off. Yeah. Nobody who's come all the way from sub-Saharan Africa changes their mind at that point. No. The police are taking them back to the French beaches where they're free to repeat the whole exercise. And the reason this works brilliantly for the smugglers is because they don't have to go all the way to England. What a hassle that is, only to come back again.
Yes. Nobody's recorded what I recorded. Smugglers getting onto the gendarme boat and being taken back to shore.
That is scandalous.
Right, he is the first person to directly film that, and well done him. I was the first person to film what were called the escorts.
Yeah.
I was the first person to do it. Went into the channel, and it was easy to see that literally 200 yards off the beach at Dunkirk or Wimereux or wherever it was, the migrant boat's on its way. The French Navy then escort it all the way. In some cases, if they haven't got life jackets, the French Navy give them life jackets. God. I've then recorded, once the escort has taken them all the way to our 12-mile line, the life jackets being collected up by Border Force and given back to the French so they can be used again.
I mean, the whole thing is
this is two governments who basically, despite everything they tell you, are effectively colluding and allowing a criminal trafficking enterprise.
We're giving the French £500 million a year. When we consider what's going on in this country, we had this Starmer idea of 1 in, 1 out, which is about 5,000 in and a couple out.
That was nonsense.
If you were elected as Prime Minister of this country, right, would you stop paying that money to the French?
Well, we've given them well over £1 billion.
For what?
And it's not working. And this is why, what we have said, and I've always said, detain and deport. And the other big story today is Peter Harris.
Oh, my God. We started the show with
but let's just link them together. So Peter Harris, leader of Essex County Council, one of my guys, friend of mine, you know, he was given a tour of the Wethersfield site the other day. And there's 800 young men in Wethersfield. And yes, they've got gyms and football pitches and TVs and doctors and dentists and, you know, you name it. Snack rooms.
I mean, honestly, it's better than Centre Parks. That cost me a couple of grand last week with the kids, for God's sake, man. Honestly,
but here's the thing. 17 minibuses every day, taking them into Chelmsford, Colchester, or wherever they want to go.
Yeah.
For the day. These people are free to roam the town centres. We haven't got a clue who they are. We haven't got a clue whether they might commit criminal acts. We know for certain their views towards women are entirely different, as they're now being told rape's not acceptable in Britain. So the point is, detain, deport. No one that comes via this route should be free to walk the streets, point number one. But point number two, you know, we said this a couple of weeks ago, and no one agrees with us. But here's the fact. If the Royal Navy, working with Border Force, because Border Force have 4 great big vessels based in Ramsgate that are out there, if the Royal Navy, Royal Marines with Border Force started picking up boats at the 12-mile line and saying, under the international law of the sea, these people are in peril. We're going to take them back to the nearest safe place, and that's France, and take them back to the beach from which they came, there might be an international incident.
Would you do that if you were Prime Minister?
Well, yes.
I would.
And here's why. Tony Abbott did it. Tony Abbott...
I interviewed him.
Yeah,
Said it
Tony,
earlier.
in 2012, towed the boats back to Indonesia. There was...
Well, now, my brother's wife at that point, Australian, talked to me, and a bit left. The world went mad.
Yeah.
How disgraceful.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, sorry, my education system's overrun, my health service is overrun.
Yeah.
Held at a referendum, 90% of Australia voted in favour. As I said earlier, you know Albanese, who took over, the left-winger, he's kept the same bloody policy going. Of course they've kept that, because the problem's not there anymore.
It can be done, but also there's another angle to this. It's actually in France's interest to sort this out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you lived in one of those villages near Calais on the Côte d'Opale? You know, and by the way, this is now going as far west as Dieppe.
Yeah.
Dieppe's in Normandy. So if we stop this, there would be a huge number of residents of northern France very, very grateful that their lives are made better. So all this bluster I've had from the other political leaders and much of the media that what I'm saying is unworkable, I actually think in the end we would get the French to work with us on it.
Why do you think, question from me, I mean, we're a country where, I got this earlier, we approve 62% of asylum seekers. In Spain, it's 12. In Germany and France, it's between 30 and 40. Why do you think the establishment or the left, or whoever we want to call it, Nigel, this is something, it won't, this talk story will not be on the BBC, it won't be in the mainstream media,
well,
but
it's all about...
it is what people are concerned about. Why is the establishment refusing to accept this?
Well, frankly, it makes no difference whether we grant them asylum or not, because as the Peter Harris article proves in the Mail today, they don't leave anywhere.
Yeah.
They just disappear. And they're straight into drugs gangs or whatever it is. I noticed that 2 years ago, we gave asylum to quite a lot of Albanians. Well, hang on. It's a holiday destination. It's a potential NATO country.
10,000 of them were prisoners in our prisons.
Yeah, and yet Germany, 0. France, 0. We're the soft touch. We're dishing out asylum. We're ultimately dishing out British passports willy-nilly because we fear that we won't send them anywhere anyway. But I mean, look, the whole thing is a complete joke. We give people asylum because they come from an unsafe country.
I had Sam Rushworth, I'm sure you've never heard of him. He's the Labour MP for Bishop Auckland, and I lost my rag because, to me, the cat was out the bag. We played him some footage the other day about a migrant situation. He said, the point you miss, and all of you on the right, he said, is they all speak English. So I jumped in and said, well, we spent £100 million last year on interpreters, so that's a lie. And then he said, it's because of colonialisation.
Oh, right.
So the left would excuse this, do they, by something from 500 years ago?
Well, actually, colonialisation did teach people English. So he's wrong on both counts there.
Yeah, completely.
Look, this is. I mean, this situation, the knock-on effects of it, the fact that once you are given leave, settled status, asylum, you're straight to the top of the social housing list. I mean, this upsets British people in a huge number of ways. But the really big one, it's a question of fairness. What is fair? What is reasonable?
Do you know how many people rang me this morning and said, so I'm in my van, I've just finished my night shift, I'm on the way to work, I'm going to work 60 hours. I actually just won't have a tenner left for a curry, but I'm going to pay all my bills and look after my kids, and these people are getting this. Does Andy Burnham want to stop the boats, Nigel?
Doesn't look like it.
Why?
Because he might upset the international community. And after all, the international communities matter far more than the interests of the people of this country.
Are the international community not laughing at us?
Well, some of the international community are suffering similar problems, namely Southern Europe. You know, look what Spain's been going through. I mean, this all started back in 2015 when the EU launched its common EU asylum policy. I was in the European Parliament. I was sitting next to Juncker, the Commission boss. I warned them all that if anyone that set foot across the Med was allowed to stay, it would be a disaster. No one listened to me at all. It led to the referendum, where I put out a poster, Breaking Point, showing huge numbers coming into Britain. I mean, you'd have thought, from the response I got in Britain, that I was the modern-day Oswald Mosley, you know. I mean, it was just astonishing. And yet, 10 years on, I feel entirely justified in putting that poster up. I think we should not pay the price for Europe's weakness, and that's what it comes down to. But I cannot see Burnham doing anything that he thinks might upset our European partners.
The other thing about Andy Burnham, a couple of minutes, is this sort of let's give out sweets for 6 weeks, no parliament, no sort of cross-examination. I watched him the other day. I think optics-wise, he's a better Prime Minister than Starmer, but let's be honest, that mug's more exciting than Keir Starmer was. No, you're now picking your one.
Well, why not?
But substance, how are you going to pay for all these things? The real nitty-gritty is still to come when you get back to Parliament, right?
Yes, it is. And, of course, we have a budget coming up on the 28th of October. All sorts of stories now about government snoopers coming into your home to value what it might be worth and all the rest of it.
Can I just make a point to you I made earlier? This mansion tax snoopers coming into your house, but you can fill out a form online and be off work for 6 months with anxiety, but you can work hard all your life and buy a house and somebody from the government can break in. It's just round the wrong way.
I know. I think we all feel everything's round the wrong way.
Yeah.
Can Andy Burnham turn round the economy? Because that's the real question. And I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't think turning around the economy will be easy for anybody. There is going to be a very big change of culture that is needed. I mean, you know, when 1 in 7 are going on antidepressants, you're basically telling 1 in 7 that they're victims. And if people are told they're victims, they're likely to think
they are victims
and act like victims.
Is he a better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer?
Too early to tell. He's a better communicator than Keir Starmer, but it'd be very hard not to be. It was big. And look, he's a better communicator. He's got a nice, friendly image. I get all of that, but he's a bit like Boris. He tells people what he thinks they want to hear. We can't let out PC Harper's killers early. That's got to be stopped.
Well, stop it. You've got a 185-seat majority.
And then a week later, it's not going to be stopped.
Do you still, when you looked at this footage this morning and you see the work that Talk have done, do you still describe this as an invasion?
Yes, absolutely. I used that word back in 2020. I was utterly condemned for it. This is an invasion. There's no other way of putting it.
And you might not want to answer this. I didn't even know about this. Georgia Maloney, what have you done to upset her? She says that Kemi Badenoch shouldn't do a pact with Reform.
Does she? How do you know that?
Well, I'm just telling you a question I was asked to ask that was in a paper.
Right. So
it was reported today.
So, OK.
Do you know Georgia Maloney?
Yes.
She's turned on Donald Trump. You do?
Yes.
So she hasn't said that. That's just the mainstream media.
I had a very long conversation with Georgia Maloney very recently. I didn't tell you about it. I didn't tell the media about it. I view conversations with people at that level as being confidential. In this particular case, I don't see a single quote from Georgia Maloney herself. I see what Kemi Badenoch tells us Georgia Maloney said. Well, maybe that shows a difference between myself and Kemi Badenoch. I keep conversations with senior figures in the world private. She chooses to play the game a very different way.
Good man. Just to sum up, I said at the beginning, 20-plus years you've had the same approach to the issues which are now central, Nigel, to everybody's lives. People who were never really invested in politics or moaning about their lives, and you used a word, fairness, and you talked about being vindicated. So many people will text me after this and going, he's our hope, he's the man we know can change it. Does that fire... that just is your life now, isn't it? To just change this stuff, right?
Yeah, do you know what really cheeses me off?
Lots of bloody press, I should imagine.
Well, there's that, yes. Yeah. What cheeses me off, I was right about so many things.
Yeah.
I was right about so many things, and 14 years, a Conservative government failed to act on any of them.
And, you know, let's be perfectly honest and to be factual, you stood aside for Boris to do what he said.
I helped them. Do you know, I even predicted the Ukraine war back in 2014. There were lots of things that I've got right. Not everything, but many things I've got right over the years, many things that could
Do you think that's why certain parts of the press, nothing that I associate with this station, would see you as this sort of... I don't know what they call you because it's all tosh to me. You speak common man's language in my humble, but why are you such a figure for them to be like, oh my God, that Nigel Farage?
Well, if you write about me, you're going to get a reaction.
Yeah.
Because actually the public know who I am. If you write big articles and big in-depth investigations into Kemi's shadow cabinet, you ain't getting much traction. Because no one knows who they are.
There was a cabinet minister once, Grayling.
Yeah.
and he stood up in the House of Commons. He said, the problem with the United Kingdom is the Jeremy Kyle generation. And I bumped into him. And I said, why'd you say that? He said, because I knew it would get traction.
Yeah, of course.
If I put Jeremy Kyle from that show.
Sure, but he wasn't stupid.
No.
But, no, I mean, and so, look, there are very, very few big characters with big backgrounds in politics today. That makes me a natural target. And I get that. And I understand that.
It comes with the territory.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been through 20 years of being attacked on front pages and goodness knows what, and that's fine. All I object to is when they start to involve my family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are some that will say, oh, Nigel's changed, he's been really angry lately. Well, I'm only angry because of things that have happened to members of my family, unfairly, wrongly, and that would not happen to any other leader.
And there's the point. And that's why I think millions continue to believe that you're the one man that can change what the hell's going on in this mad world.
I promise to be chirpy. I promise to be cheery.
What you want to be. Sorry, he said the wrong word. Stuff them. Be what you want, man. You're a human being.
And I might just have the odd pint along the way.
And the odd cigarette and pint would obviously go down. It's an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you. I know how busy you are. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform, exclusive to Talk, 8:30. Back in 3.
Go to Calais train station?
Yes, train station.
Okay. I was gaping. It was brutal. Come on, come on! Ready, full fast, go on! And they're on the way over to UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 8:30. Thank you to Nigel Farage. He responding to that extraordinary piece of work, a Talk World exclusive that will drop on our YouTube channel from 5 o'clock this afternoon. Isabel Oakeshott and Christian Drogan, who will join me from 9, spent more than a year planning this. He was the first undercover reporter to ever break back into England posing as an illegal migrant. It's extraordinary footage, and it highlights so much, including the one key... I mean, for me, this is extraordinary. We're paying the French £500 million a year. French police were filmed picking up the people smugglers who'd arranged for everybody to be on the boat, and they got on the boat, the smugglers, just to make sure everybody... A mile out, the French police come along. Anybody want to get off? Off get the smugglers to go back to the beach, do the whole thing again. And we're giving these people 500 million quid. Nigel Farage talking candidly there about, quite rightly, he's been the only person been talking about this for 20 years. Do you know, I'm that old that if you used to talk about immigration, you were called a racist. Extraordinary response. Let's go to Michael in Birmingham. Not long, Michael. Couple of minutes on Talk Breakfast. What you got?
How can we be serious about stopping illegal migration when our Home Secretary was pictured giving out food parcels to illegal migrants a few years ago? We've gone through the looking glass. And I wanted to ask Nigel, would he consider reviewing all asylum and immigration claims over the last 20 years when they're in power, just to check out, because I've worked in that industry, I've worked as a civil servant. I know how lax it is to be granted immigration and asylum. It's virtually impossible. That's all. I could say more, but I know you haven't got much time.
I completely appreciate the call, Mikey. You'll understand how busy we are if I'd had a chance to put that to him, but I will when he's next on, which will be very, very soon. Massive kudos, says David Perry, to you guys for that report and crossing the channel. The mainstream media, to their eternal shame, won't touch this story with a barge pole. Their woke bosses won't have the guts. Morning, Jez. Chris from Worcester. What Isabel and her team have exposed is basically that the Labour and Tory party state-funded modern slave trade. The security implications to me of this are extraordinary. What's reckless is the government continuing to enable this trade in human beings, says Stephen. Lee's in Market Harbour. Jez, can you now see that this is all arranged, that the Home Office condemning what Christian Isabel did as reckless is part of it? Talk. Brilliant work from Isabel and Christian Drogan. Well done. Cannot wait to watch the entirety of this. Dave in South Gloucester. Cannot express my admiration and gratitude to Isabel and Christian for their skill and bravery in shining the light of truth on this appalling situation. The Home Office's response is both weak and pathetic and full of gaslighting drivel. This so-called strong partnership with France, 500 million quid a year, does not stop the crossings. It may stop some of the boats, but it does not stop the people coming. It merely delays them. The people don't just shrug, give up and go away. They keep trying over and over. There is not the will. Jez, amazing work by Isabel and Christian. Can you ask if they're worried? Oh, we did that, about a breakup. Sean from Bridlington. Isabel and Christian can present the most horrific evidence to the Home Office of what a threat to the UK this invasion represents. It doesn't matter. A left-wing government will never do what's required to end this bloody invasion. 0344 499 1000. Let's say good morning to Phil in London. Morning, Phil. You're on Talk Breakfast.
Good morning, mate. I'm looking at the cost of living, yeah, for me. Just looking at it,
there. Apologies, Phil. Start again.
Sorry, I was just saying, looking at the cost of living, and my energy bills are up, my water bills are up, my kids are paying stupid amounts of money on debt on their for the university payments. Can't get a house because mortgage rates are too high. They can't borrow money. There don't seem to be any jobs. I'm wondering how many of those ills were caused by people coming across on boats.
Lots of it, because the implications of
those problems were caused by people who are foreigners. But I'll tell you what, the thing is my old man, yeah, he's going to have care done. Yeah, he's going to have care, elderly care. Do you know who owns that elderly care home? Private equity in the US. A private equity company owns my dad's care home in the US, extracting money. That's foreigners, yeah. But US foreigners who fly around in private jets rather than small boats. They're rinsing my old man.
Yeah, mate, I sit here day in, day out. I listen to hard-working alarm clock Brits who basically are saying, what is the point in me working? What is the point in me living my life correctly when these people all over the place seem to be being treated? I share your frustration, your anger. Phil, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to the Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control, good friend of mine, Robert Bates. Rob, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. How are you doing?
Extraordinary, in a way. Did you see the footage that Isabel and Christian Drogan have dropped here at 7 o'clock?
I have done, yes. Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. That is the only word for it, quite frankly. I think it reveals just the abject failure that both the Conservative and the Labour governments have presided over, and this idea that the French are in any way on our side when it comes to this matter, it is now completely dispelled. And I think it is time that we recognise we've got to take matters into our own hand on this and sort this out ourselves.
We if you're just tuning in, it's on at 5 o'clock on our YouTube channel, The Undercover Migrant Returns. This is invading Britain. Christian Drogan, it took a year and a half for him and Isabel to put this together. He broke back into England after several aborted attempts. There's some amazingly shocking parts of this. I won't go into it now. Safe to say, Robert, French police were filmed a mile out picking up the people smugglers off the boat and taking them back to shore and saying, you can do it all over again. We're paying these people 500 million quid a year with a laughing stock, aren't we?
Well, and of course, the government have been very keen in the last couple of weeks to say that the French are being amazing. We couldn't ask for better partners on this crisis. They've been releasing footage of the French being absolutely extraordinary. I very much doubt they'll be putting out on their official channels some of this footage, because it really does expose how much we are being fleeced. And of course, even the data does show that actually the number of crossings the French are stopping is down in the last year. I think the chaos that is unveiled here, the sort of disorganised nature of the people boarding the boats, but also at the same time the way it does happen very seamlessly, shows that this is a trade now that is incredibly well honed. These are people smugglers that have been doing it for many, many years. And the idea that we're going to, with the resourcing we've got, be able to disrupt their model entirely and seize enough boats or stop enough crossings is frankly for the birds. I think the only way we go about stopping this now is to deter these people that we're currently seeing on our screen on the boat, who are looking very comfortable, very happy about the crossing. These individuals need to know that if they're coming to Britain, they're going to be detained, removed to their country of origin or a third country, or maybe even be turned back, be boarded onto a border force vessel and turned back to the French coast. They have to know that they are not going to be allowed to stay in Britain, because each one of these estimates suggest will cost upwards of £140,000 over their lifetime. Money that could be going on services, on the health service that your previous caller was just talking about, or on infrastructure, or just improving the lives of Brits rather than going on to invaders.
I mean, Nigel just spent half an hour with me. He used that word invasion several years ago and was pilloried. He absolutely slaughtered for using that word. The point is, the left will look me in the face, Rob, and they'll say, oh, you've got to... I mean, we've heard the BS, right, for as long as you can remember about war-torn countries and they're bringing their wife and kid. Let's nail this. On that boat, there was 2 women, one who was nearly trampled, basically seriously trampled to death. It was Christian that saved her. These are young men, right, unvetted, coming into our country. That is an absolute known fact. It's also known that the driver of that boat, you'll see this on the programme later, was speaking Farsi, which is an Iranian language. And Nigel Farage and others have said in the last few weeks and months, there are Iranian operatives being allowed into this country, and we don't know who the hell they are. The government laughed at that. So you've got unvetted men from different cultures that can carry out sexual assaults and criminality. You've got potentially political operatives. You've got gangs who have got the French in their pocket and we're giving them £500 million. And all I hear from the left is, do you know, it's really important on the international stage that we look great. Well, I tell you what, you're not looking anything other than idiotic, and your own people are up in arms because all they do is work their backsides off to feel and look and see situations like that and think it's not bloody fair. Farage nailed it. Fairness is the word that we should use. We've always turned, I think, we've just sort of let it happen because our lives were better. But since COVID and since all the problems with energy... It's bloody hard out there for everybody. Food's 3 times the cost, petrol, diesel, whatever, and people are struggling. And if you've got a tone-deaf government, whatever their colours, saying, well, you know, either we can't because of the ECHR or the House of Lords or because it doesn't look good. I am not into advocating anything, but the British people, Rob, in my humble, will not swallow this much longer. It's wrong and it's unfair.
Well, it's wrong and it's unfair and it's unforgivable, even if times were great for the British public and we were seeing a boon in our quality of life with GDP per capita increasing and all the trappings that brings. But for this to be happening at the very same time that the British people are being pummeled effectively into the ground by the government with tax hikes, with a lack of care in actually investing in what we care about. I think this is a crisis of the social contract. This is something that could really grind to halt the very society that we function in. Because I think if people are looking at the treatments that these individuals will be getting, compare it to their own treatment by their own government, their own elected officials, using their own money, I think that actually it's very hard to see how people can continue to trust the political establishment. And that is why in 2029, I think we do really have one last chance to turn this country around, because otherwise we're going to continue to see the boats coming across, we're going to continue to see mass legal migration, we're going to see the opening up of safe and legal routes for more low-wage individuals, from the low-skilled individuals from the third world, and the crisis is just going to now reach a doom loop unless something is seriously done to avert course. And of course, people have been warning about invasions. I think we now agree that is a fact. People have been warning about Iranian operatives. We now know that is a fact. People have been warning about Europe being at breaking point. Well, look at the scenes we saw in Spain. I think all of these facts have been proven to be true. It's just very, very difficult to get that point through with a media and political class that operate the way they do.
But you say the media and the political class. So there's an amazing piece in the Mail by Peter Harris today, the reform leader of Essex Council, who got the chance to go inside this Wethersfield former RAF base. This is like a bloody holiday camp. And I'm not joking. There's 800 men, right? There's 800 men. Let's get this nailed. 3 meals a day, a gym, a football pitch, TVs, an NHS clinic, free mobile phones, a snack bar and a squadron of 17 minibuses to drive them wherever, whenever they want. So God knows what happens. And the leader of the council was given unique access. What he found is purely that this country has gone mad. If you... This is what I can't get. You're much better at this than me. I stand in front of leftists, or they stand in front of me, and they go on and on and on about this rubbish about war-torn countries. They go on about, you know, white men rape women. They go on about we won't look good, or colonisation, or whatever. We are screwing ourselves. We are giving too much away to too many people who do not, I'm afraid, deserve it. They haven't paid in. They might come from a different country. We have always been the soft touch. And unless somebody hardens up and somebody says, no, I'm not doing that, I don't care what you say, God knows where it ends up, Rob. It's ridiculous. We're skint anyway, man.
Well, it ends up with fiscal catastrophe, $17.5 billion since 2021 on the asylum system, and that's just on this specific asylum system, not the welfare bill, where we've seen a doubling of the number of refugees on universal credit between 22 and 26. So that's the fiscal side of things. That's a no-brainer. But on the cultural side of things, you know, they're being given booklets. We're seeing a daily slew now of news reports of horrific crimes, which don't just affect the individuals and their family, it affects the whole community, because if the community can see that this is being carried out by individuals that the government has done nothing to stop from entering our country, there is a sense of unnervingness, there's a sense of concern that spreads like wildfire. And unfortunately, this is something that the left will refuse to grapple with. I think, frankly, partly because they do just have a disdain for this country, its history, its heritage and its culture. And I'm very, very happy to aggrandise themselves by pursuing...
Can I just jump in? If the left have a dislike for this country and our flag, why don't they sod off somewhere else? Why don't all the people who come here illegally, who then slag off this country as, I can't have this and that, why don't you go somewhere else? Why are we, it seems to me, a punch bag? Because that's what we've become, morally and economically, a bloody punch bag to the detriment of our own people.
Well, because we are a brilliant vehicle through which they can pursue their pet projects of endless human rights campaigning or the pursuit of international agendas, because we are still a relatively wealthy country. So being here in Britain...
Are we wealthy or are we skint? We're paying £10 billion a month in interest on the debts we've got. To them we might be, but actually to our own people and to our own economy, we're not well off at all.
Well, I think that is true, but you know, Britain does offer these individuals, because of our historic role on the world stage, an opportunity to grandstand that they probably wouldn't get if they were, say, living in Portugal or Greece or somewhere like that. So they're sort of basking in the legacy that Britain does have and sort of the afterglow of our greatness. I absolutely agree that we are going down the pan very, very quickly. But I think you know, this is something that they now are pretty much inside every single institution. We've seen news reports of, you know, national lottery funding, millions and millions of pounds going towards open border groups. We've got the Charity Commission presiding over disastrous charities that frankly are just campaign groups and open border activists. We've got within the civil service individuals threatening to go on strike if there's any kind of clampdown on the asylum system as well. So there are opportunities for those individuals that do have disdain for this country to really, really pursue their pet projects through whichever vehicle they choose to go through.
Rob, you know what I think of you, mate, and your organisation, the Centre for Migration Control. We so appreciate your response to that Talk World exclusive that we launched at 7 o'clock. Breaking into Britain, the undercover migrant. Christian Drogan will join me after 9 o'clock to talk more of that. It's all in full from 5 o'clock on our YouTube channel. Can I just point out that I do try. We have Labour on, we have Liberal Democrats on, we have the Tories on. OK, we've had Nigel Farage on this morning, and we've been very vocal about this migrant thing because that's how I feel and that's how you feel. If you disagree with anything we're saying, if you want to challenge anything I'm saying, or Nigel Farage, anything he says you disagree, just phone the show. More than happy. I'd love to have a debate with somebody who says that, well, I did last week, Sam Rushworth, that wasn't great, that migration is a great thing, everybody's benefiting for it, and it's great because we look really good. If you can come on and make that argument and believe it, then fair play to you. Morning, Matty.
The more I hear from Nigel Farage, the more it makes me realise he's the man for our country. There's absolutely no doubt about that. How many times do you have to be consistently right over decades and still be vilified? This man is the only one that's speaking sense and truth, and he'll pull us out of the mess that we're in. Cheers. Great show.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, give him a listen every day. It's brilliant. Kev from 4, and especially this afternoon, that all-exclusive, world-exclusive on Talk. Isabel Oakeshott and Christian Drogan, how he's become the first British undercover journalist to cross the English Channel in a dinghy. It's in the Sun newspaper, and this is really important. He'll join me after 9. Kev with Isabel between 4 and 5, and that whole thing will play on this station and on our YouTube channel from 5 a.m. this afternoon. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's say a very good morning. I'd love to get this man's response. Peter Blexley, good morning.
Good morning to you, and may I just start with a very important correction. You just said 5 a.m. It's 5 p.m, everybody. 5 p.m. today. Do not miss it on this station or on YouTube.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Peter Blexley. We'll speak to you very soon. Brilliant. Well done. No, sorry for being so inaccurate, but some of us have been up since 2. How are you, dear boy? What did you make of it?
Oh, it's just astonishing. One of the single most important pieces of investigative journalism that this country's had in many, many years. I'm so glad that the Sun has covered it this morning, and I'm so glad that it will inevitably draw a huge audience. It should, in turn, build pressure on our governments, on the people who are failing this country so manifestly, who are, with open arms, allowing our towns, villages, hamlets and cities to be changed beyond all recognition, and not for the better, I might add.
Couldn't agree more. If you're just tuning in, at 7 o'clock I announced a world exclusive for Talk. Isabel Oakeshott and Christian Drogan, an undercover reporter. It took 14 months, the first ever British journalist to cross the English Channel in a migrant dinghy. The whole thing from 5 p.m. this afternoon. I'm going to play you a little clip in a sec, but I mean, from the programme, when you watch it, from trying to get the contacts and spending months and walking miles and being disappointed and one boat being slashed, all the way through to arriving here. Just look at this clip, though. This is the chaos of getting on the dinghy. He saved a woman from being trampled. Only 2 women on the boat. Let's make that point. Have a watch.
I managed to get a lift onto the dinghy, and it was just absolute chaos. Chaos.
Yeah, push. Yeah. Ready, both hands, go on. Come on, we got you. Come on. We got you. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry, don't panic.
You know, there's people almost drowning in the water trying to get to the boat. They've got no idea how to swim. They've got no life jacket. There's people screaming on the boat. There's kids screaming on the boat. I've never seen chaos like it. It was just, you know, I'm sort of on this boat thinking someone's going to get killed there.
You worked undercover, Pete. We've talked about that a lot on this show, and a large part of your life was spent doing something that fearful. You perhaps could understand more than anybody just the position that Christian Drogan put himself in.
Yes, and I have nothing but respect, praise and admiration for him. It was certainly a very different kind of situation to those that I got embroiled in, but this is the kind of journalism that the country needs, because let's just look at the evidence. As a former detective, you'll know that I thrive on evidence about these people. The countless criminal convictions and the charges that have been laid this week. The murder of Siobhan White, rest her soul. Images last week of these people, before they get on the boats, throwing missiles at French police officers. This is the type of human detritus that is being brought into this country on an almost daily basis. Yeah. And then when they get here, so many of them, a significant proportion, a far, far higher proportion of those people go on to offend than native British people do. It is scandalous. It is appalling. And the fact that it's not being stopped is an absolute stain upon this once great nation.
I asked Nigel, why do you think why do you think that successive governments haven't? Is it a lack of will, cojones, whatever? He said probably all of those things. People are saying to me, you know, this is you know, for every illegal migrant that comes who's so grateful, that's a vote for the government in power. It's just extraordinary to me that successive politicians, Pete, cannot read the damn room. I'm not into encouraging anything, but I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The silent majority have had enough. And when they see French gendarmes enabling smugglers to get back out the boat and go back into it, when they hear we're paying them 500 quid, when they hear 500 million, when they hear about Wethersfield former RAF base today that makes it a bleeding holiday camp for 800 migrants, and they're going to work and they're struggling, they're paying their tax, they're not breaking the law, and they can't even afford a curry on a Friday night, you know what they're saying? I am done with this. It's unfair. That is a word I hear repeatedly. It is unfair, Pete.
Tick, tick, tick to all of the above. And then I go onto social media to have a scroll around yesterday to find knife-wielding maniacs who I largely suspect came into the country in this kind of manner, wielding machetes on the streets in Cornwall. Because, of course, we know Burnham is spreading them the length and breadth of the country. And bit by bit, illegal migrant by illegal migrant, changing the very fabric of this nation, eroding British values, British culture, who we are, what we stand for, and what we want to be.
Couldn't agree more, mate. It's always a pleasure. We love the bones of you. Thank you so much indeed. Not bad for a QPR fan. Peter Blexley, his response to that world exclusive from 5 p.m. with Kevin O'Sullivan on our YouTube channel. Christian Drogan and Isabel Oakeshott. The undercover migrant returns breaking into England. The man himself, the man who spent 14 months doing this. Christian Drogan is next on Tour Breakfast.
Go to Calais train station?
Yes, train station.
Okay. I was gripping it. It was brutal. Come on, come on! Ready, full fast, go on! And they're on the way over to UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you.
And I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years without a mandate from the British people, and it will be only decent, right and proper to call a general election on that issue and to do it now.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho, the speed this all happened, I know this is a well-trodden debate already, is actually breathtaking. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago he wasn't even an MP. The next he's holding keys to number 10 without the country ever really having a chance to scrutinise him in a prospective prime ministerial nothing at all. We really know very little.
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that. No one voted for you to be Prime Minister. You weren't standing in the 2024 general election. We've never seen your manifesto.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, or welcome along. For those of you who haven't been here, where the hell have you been? It's an extraordinary morning. At 7 o'clock, I announced a Talk World exclusive. Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor, and Christian Drogan, an undercover reporter. He has become the first ever English journalist to cross the English Channel in a migrant dinghy. This is extraordinary work. 14 months it took, aborted attempts, the fear, the longing, all that sort of stuff. Eventually it happened. We're going to play so much of it. We're going to speak to Christian himself. I just want to get some of your response. Unbelievable. Sarah says, mind-blowing, the show this morning. Amazing journalism by Christian and Isabel. I can't wait for Donald Trump's response to this footage. You're letting him in, you're letting him in. I'm sure if you asked the patriotic British public, they would happily buy anyone who is living here at our expense and hates our country, including the lefties, a one-way ticket to oblivion with no option to return. Good girl. David, Jeremy, we should take them all to an uninhabited island somewhere in Scottish, off the Scottish tote, put up tents, hope the midges are about and see what happens. Reg, let's say, for instance, all these men coming across do have wives and kids, and let's say, for instance, they all get given asylum now. How many are there? How many more are coming? What are they going to do to our women and children? The numbers are frightening. Morning, Jess, says Brian Goodwin. Can we not ask the French to itemise every penny to give them, because I believe they are not using 100% of our money? Mate, with respect, we're giving them 500 million quid. They're taking the P, and they'll say, we do not understand English. Just take the money back, for God's sake. Put the Navy in the Channel. Jez, the migrant invasion. Labour's plan to stop the migrants today is working. Yes, the wind is blowing today, mate. That means since John in Poole, they won't come. Jez, Chris in the southwest. I watch your show every morning at 6 a.m. I love the show because we get to hear the truth about this country and what's going on. Why can't we use the ECHR against our own government concerning illegal migration? The governments don't listen when there's been peaceful protests or even riots. It doesn't make any sense. You make your changes at the ballot box in 2029. It's 9:05. We're live across the UK. As I said, if anybody disagrees with what Farage said, what Isabel said, what I've said about migration, come on, have a go. Just come on and have your say. I want to do that. I'm quite happy to do it. But the truth of the matter is, wherever you are in the UK this morning, if you're working or you're at home looking after the kids, every penny you've got, you've probably worked for. And if you are on the dole, seriously disabled, mentally ill, you deserve that money. But we're giving money we ain't bleeding got to people who shouldn't be here. And I'll tell you what, my next guest shouldn't be here. And something's happened to Christian Drogan, because last time I see him, he's an illegal migrant. You see how they get treated? He's got a shirt and tie on. Did the government give you that for breaking into my country, man?
Well, I thought best make an effort. Hey, why not?
Well, listen, Andy Burnham, didn't you look smarter than him? Mate, on a serious note, Christian, we've known each other a while. Unbelievable. I'm going to play some clips in a minute. When this first was muted, was any part of you like, that's scary?
I mean, listen, you know, we've been trying to do this for a while now. We are in search of the truth we've had enough of certain narratives that are put out. We've just, you know, we've been over there. We've obviously done the first documentary. We've been trying to do this for at least, about a year now. And, you know, yeah, there are times where it's a bit hairy, but, you know, it's not the end of the world. We're in search of the truth, and that's what we've stayed focused on.
Let's go back to the beginning. I've got a clip here, creating a relationship with a smuggler. I'm going to play that, and then I want you to explain how you started this whole process. It's a Monday morning. How the hell do I get on a smuggler boat from France? Have a look at this clip. This will be on later, included in the programme from 5 p.m.
When we started this project, we naively thought that if you had money in your pocket, the people smugglers would be happy to take it. The reality was, if you look British, if you look like a white guy, they are naturally very, very suspicious. You can't just jump on a boat, can you?
No, I mean, you need contacts. You need contacts, you need a handler. I was able to pay to get on a boat because I'd got an advert from TikTok, and I'd been liaising with this guy for months and months and months on end. And we'd built up a bit of a rapport, relationship. I knew he was semi-genuine because a month before I'd been into the camp, into the Dunkirk jungle, and he'd walked me to meet someone on the phone, directed me on the phone. And I'd been given a tent. After about 20 minutes, I was asked to leave. They said, you know, you're European. We think you might be a police informer or something. So I said, listen, I'm not going anywhere. I said, I've got money. I'm paying to get the smuggler. About 20 metres away from me, the shotgun started being fired, and I just got the hell out of there. I just said, right, OK, I'm going.
Let's talk about this, right? This is the basic thing I want to ask you. One would assume, without being criticised, that the majority of illegal migrants are from African countries, from certain Arab countries or whatever, and you're a white man, Caucasian white man. Fact. So you came up with a bit of a ruse. Tell us about that.
Well, obviously, first time what we'd done is we tried to sort of fudge being foreign. It just wasn't happening.
You don't speak Farsi or anything like that. It doesn't work.
No. So, you know, I had to sort of align with them, but, you know, be honest to a certain level. So I thought, well, if I'll just pretend that I'm a criminal. I've left the UK and I'm on the run from the authorities in the UK.
And why are you trying to get back?
Because I wanted to see my family and I wanted to get back undetected and live a life in the UK. So but the one key thing that I said to him was, as long as you get me on a boat without any problems, I will not cause you any problems. And we sort of had this understanding. We made a promise to each other, and that's the way it went.
So you go through months and months of creating a relationship with a smuggler without any end product known to be true. Have a look. This is another clip. It's extraordinary about the relationship.
When we started this project, we naively thought that if you had money in your pocket, the people smugglers would be happy to take it.
Sorry, stop that. That's mine. We already played that. Let's talk about money. How much did you pay? Look at this clip. My fault, that one.
I heard a very well-known and intelligent politician on talk radio a few days ago suggesting that migrants had generally paid thousands of pounds to get to the UK.
Nonsense. I paid €1,400. I handed it over to Ali. He counted it. He sort of looked very amazed at €1,400 in 50 euro notes. He counted it and he put it in his pocket. He kept it. He did hand it over to someone else eventually. But there was somebody in the camp, a couple from Kuwait, and they said they had €600. Anyway, that wasn't enough. They were sent away. But anybody else that I came across didn't appear to have paid for the boat. And I know some definitely hadn't paid for the boat because I was told.
I think this is a really important point, and it's not well understood, even though I keep reiterating it, that most of those people on those boats have probably not paid in the conventional form. They are providing some form of labour.
Well, they're working in the illegal trade in France. Probably most of them are working in the illegal trade in the UK because there's only a few. They only need a few helpers on the French side. So the bulk of them are coming over to the UK. They're working in the slave trade, in an illegal business.
Black market labour. Is what I mean by that.
So what you've got is, in your opinion, having seen it, is very few would pay but then the people smugglers create a network of criminals in the United Kingdom. How do they get the money back to
Well,
them?
let me give you an example, right?
Yeah.
So there's one guy, he's been living in Turkey, so not exactly fleeing war or persecution. He's been living in Turkey. He's met some guy who said, oh, yeah, if you want to go to the UK, I'll pay for your ticket, but when you get to the UK, you've got to do some work for me, a week's work or 2 weeks' work, whatever. It's hard to sort of get direct, exact translation because we're using Google Translate, but that is basically what was said. So that's just one way that these tickets are being paid for. If you use your imagination, there's plenty of other ways that they're being paid for. Even on the French side, people are helping the smugglers, and they have to work, say, 2 months to help the smugglers, get people to the boats and set the boats off, that sort of thing. And then once they've done the 2 months or whatever period it might be, then they have their free ticket. You're on your way to Britain.
Got a clip. One of the things, we sit here every morning and we talk about it and we go, we're giving the French 500 million quid a year, for Christ's sake. What do they do for that money? And we've seen a couple of clips over the years where, over the months, where the police go, not a problem. So it was a very good impression.
Not possible.
Not possible. I will say this only once. Other times, actually, where they've sort of sliced boats and it all looks a bit sort of set. There's a clip here of literally no police on the beach and you running. Have a look at this. It's extraordinary.
To my delight, there's no police on the beach, and our boat is not far. I can actually see the warship. Oh yeah, I can see the warship right in the distance over there. I've got it on the tracking app as well, and the dinghy is obviously next to that, so that's basically where they've told us the location is, and then I've checked on the app, so that's following our dinghy, and they obviously think the launch is going to be somewhere upwards of that. So I went back and reported to the group leader, and once he'd checked out with the smuggler, he's like, right, yeah, go on, get yourselves down in the water, boat will be here in a minute.
And that's what happened.
And that's what happened. If you struggle to swim, and you're drowning, shout help. Once you get on the boat, you help everybody else get on the boat. Okay. We don't leave anybody behind. This is slippy, this way. Now or never, guys, yeah? Straight. Push the boat, lads, push the boat.
It's unbelievable, man. Like a migrant team leader.
Well, I mean...
Do they understand what you were saying? Seriously?
I think they sort of got the gist. There's certain people, the odd one that could speak a bit of English, but, I mean, it was all part and parcel blended in.
Was there, I mean, I'm asking you just stuff as it comes into my head. Were there moments when you thought, I'm going to be found out here, they can see the camera, I don't fit in, oh my God, I'm like a sore thumb here, it's going to be a nightmare?
There were moments where certain, one of the smugglers sort of looked at me and I saw him notice the Ray-Ban Metas and his body language totally changed, but he almost froze because he didn't know who I was. I know that he's a...
For people out there, this is sunglasses with a camera in, James, isn't it? I call him James because he's like James Bond, to be fair, isn't he? Talk about the walking. I mean, Isabel said you walked miles.
Oh, God, I mean, to be honest, that was one of the hardest parts. And this leads on to something else, even with the trains and the buses that nobody pays for and sometimes are free anyway, you're covering up to 18, 20 miles a day. So if illegal migrants in northern France weren't able to use the public transport, unless you were an ultramarathon runner and an illegal migrant, then you're not bothering coming to Britain.
Yeah, it's true.
So, yeah.
It must have been mentally and physically exhausting, sort of building up to be knocked down. I mean, there's this story that Isabel was saying that when you finally got the go-ahead on that dinghy and you saved a girl who was about to be crushed and you're all ready to go, and because you know about boats, the engine didn't start. Tell us that.
Yeah, so there was something wrong with this. On the first boat that I got on, the police were acting very bizarre that day, very intense, after they've just been hammered by, a couple of days bad news in the UK about the crossings. But on that day of getting on the boat, it was just chaos. There were so many people piled onto it. There was an issue with the hull. It sort of looked like it deformed. The engine was obviously so underpowered it was untrue.
And you knew that that engine wasn't big enough, strong enough to actually run the boat, right?
It wouldn't have got that boat over the channel. It wouldn't. You know, it might have got it a certain way, but it'd have failed at some point. It was, you know, a current or the wind would have taken it out of the way. So that boat ended up having engine problems before we'd even got going. Next thing you know, the police run into the water and puncture the boat. Now, they will claim this boat, this as a figure that they've stopped the crossings. That boat was never crossing anyway. I can categorically tell you the engine was kaput, the hull was knackered, there was too many people on it. However, they will claim that that's crossing stopped on the
So it was convenient. That's a number to tick by slashing that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, it was,
do you think the French gendarmes, do you know why I did that? And do you think they're all part of this? I mean, you talk about free buses, and we're going to play the most shocking thing of all in a minute, but amongst all that chaos, do you get the distinct feeling they're all in it together and we're having, you know, we're being made to look ridiculous?
I mean, you hear the age-old stories, don't you, of, you know, brown envelopes and mafias and that sort of thing. I don't have any evidence on that, so I can't really truthfully comment. However, I would just say that the will's not there. The will for them to stop these boats is not there, so that's why. You know.
But I wonder if the will would return if we took back our 500 million quid and at the 12-mile, you know, zone, as Nigel Farage said earlier, the Royal Navy escorted all those people back to France. I wonder whether they'd be bothered about getting their heads out their backsides if we weren't facilitating it all. So much I want to ask you, man to man, because ladies, listen, he's brave as anything, this one, honestly, and single. Scariest moment, not that I want to admit it, but where was it? Was it in the middle of the night when somebody was by your tent? What was it that you thought, my God, I'm in trouble here?
To be honest, it was the moment where I'd been stopped. You know, I'm running down to the beach, I'm trying to get to the water. You know, you're so tired. And I get down to the bottom of the dunes, next thing you know, bang. 6 coppers stopped me and this other lad, and I'm thinking, surely not, you know, surely not. They never stop any of the migrants. How all of a sudden have I run down to the beach and the 6 coppers there? Anyway, next thing you know, I've got my passport in my waist bag, and they are searching me. Pulled the camera out of my pocket, put it back in my pocket, didn't bat an eyelid. I mean, I thought that was a bit bizarre. Anyway, his finger sort of touches my passport, moves it through the bag. He didn't realise it was my passport. And that was the moment where I thought, hang on a second, this is mission over if they pull my passport out now, because they'll probably arrest me for people smuggling. British passport, running down to the beach with migrants. Obviously, I wasn't doing that, but yeah. So that's that was the moment where, you know, my knees were sort of shaking a little bit.
The most shocking thing, and actually all of it is shocking, but the most shocking thing that we released with Nigel was French police. So you're finally on the next boat. By the way, peeps, you watch the whole thing on replay, but this to me sums it all up. You get about a mile out shore.
Yeah.
You've got to tell this, and then certain people want to get off.
Yeah, I mean, this happens on every single boat crossing. So on every single.
Did you know before this happened?
Yes, because I'd learned probably a few weeks before. I'd started noticing this, and then I'd seen it a couple of times in the same period in this same trip. So when I was just sort of bedding myself into the trip, so normally what happens on the last pickup. They slide off the boat. The smugglers slide off the boat as the last people get on, and out at sea, you know, 50 metres, 30 metres out, you can't really see. So they exchange themselves for passengers, and they pretend they didn't get on the boat. They sort of pretend they're drowning. They've all got life jackets on. Pretend they're drowning. They pretend they're cold. It was 32 degrees. The sea was warm, and they come back shivering. The police look at them, and they, you know, oh, my family, where's my family gone? You know, all this pretending to be sad because the family's gone. Next thing you know, as soon as the police haven't searched them and walked on by, they're up the beach laughing and joking. On to the next one.
Did the police know it, or are they just stupid? Serious question.
Well, I mean, they did give some smugglers a lift back to the beach, so they either know it or they're just ignorant.
It is a clip. We're paying 500 million, and the French police are, after the smugglers have boarded up the boat, got a mile out, they jump off, go, we don't want to get back, and they just put on the beach and off they go again. Watch, this is unbelievable.
The police boat took control of our boat, so it put its bow on our bow, and it turned us round in a circle. While they were talking to us, they said, don't go ahead, it's dangerous out there, it's very wavy.
The sea is very rough. Okay. Here it's quiet. When you go wider, it's really dangerous. The sea is very rough. Okay, the best way today is to go back.
So the police had said that to us, you know, if anybody else wants to get off, get on our boat, we'll take you back. 4 smugglers, get on the gendarme boat, check for weapons, all okay, sit on the back, we'll take you back. The police, the gendarme, took the smugglers back to the shore.
So effectively, the police are giving the smugglers a free lift back to shore. There's a bit of a fig leaf going on here.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, a few people need to get off.
Yeah.
Nobody who's come all the way from sub-Saharan Africa changes their mind at that point. No. The police are taking them back to the French beaches where they're free to repeat the whole exercise. And the reason this works brilliantly for the smugglers is because they don't have to go all the way to England. What a hassle that is, only to come back again.
Yes. Nobody's recorded what I recorded. Smugglers getting onto the gendarme boat and being taken back to shore.
That is scandalous.
So much of it is scandalous. To you, Christian, who was there, what was the most shocking thing about the whole thing?
I mean, there's a lot of shocking things. It's hard to try and pull any single one thing out. I mean, obviously, we know the police activity. That's sort of expected now, really. But, yeah, I mean, probably the most shocking thing, actually, to be honest, was being pleasantly surprised by how effective the UK border force
I wanted to make this point. This is extraordinary. You and Isabel make a point of saying that they were really professional.
Yeah, they're shackled by the government and political ideology. They can't do their job properly to protect the border.
What did they say when they saw you then? They realised that you were a reporter. Did they give you any grief? Did they say, well done, young man? Did they say, on your way?
They just said, you've made our day. This has never happened before. Fair play to you. Yeah. They are watching this happen day in, day out, at least nearly every day.
So you think they're as frustrated as other people?
They weren't allowed to say they were, but I'm going to make the judgment that they were. And you know, they're dealing with this every day, and they're the ones whose hands are shackled by the government. So yeah, I do feel for them, and you know, and if I feel like we'd be in safe hands anyway if they were allowed to do their jobs.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, did you at any point feel, through the relationship you built, did you feel sorry for the migrant?
There's a couple of moments where, listen, I'm watching, you know, maybe I'm laid down in some bushes with a Sudanese family, and I'm watching this, you know, this girl sort of play with a bug, and the parents are saying, be quiet, and she just sat there for an hour. You know, a mum was carrying a sister who's a baby, bottle fed. I'm thinking, how are you being put in this position to, you know, to be sold the dream to go to the UK, where you're about to take they don't know the danger they're putting the kids into. They're taking their kids down to get on the dinghy. If something goes wrong, I'm thinking if something goes wrong with this out at sea, none of them have got life jackets. You know, I'm going to be watching all these die. That was a moment which was quite hard and heavy to take, and that's why these crossings have to be stopped, because, you know, innocent people's lives are being put at risk. Percentage of men to women, because, you know, Darren Jones, the ex-Secretary of State for the Prime Minister under Sir Dreary Starmer, said 90% of them are women and men, women and children. That's rubbish, isn't it? Well, I was on a boat, including myself, there was 36 people on it, and guess how many women there were? 2. None. Brilliant. So that's none. The Home Office issued a statement after your piece of work and Isabel's was put out this morning. This is what they said. Your actions, Christian Drogan, were reckless. You've made it more difficult for law enforcement officers to stop small boat crossings and save lives in dangerous conditions. Our partnership with France is stronger than ever, with a new deal signed by the Home Secretary delivering a 40% uplift in boots on the ground. Together, we are piling the pressure on criminal gangs and preventing illegal and dangerous crossings. Over 1,100 boats or engines have been seized since the election. 48,000 crossing attempts have been prevented, and the number of small boats crossings are down. You must respond to that. Listen, how ironic that they label me reckless when they are the people, yeah? They are the people who are making the decisions to spread unknown men into our communities across the nation. These men, you know, whether they're innocent or guilty or dangerous or not, until we know who they are, they should be being detained in secure detention centres and processing facilities. So, yeah, I'm quite happy to say that they've got the wrong way around. They are the reckless ones, not me. Couldn't agree more. There was some footage, and Isabel sort of talked about this, that they thought the bloke that steered the boat
spoke Farsi, which is Iranian. And one of the things that Nigel and I were talking about is he said something 3 months ago and was widely ridiculed that he believes that operatives from other countries like Iran are also getting in here. So we're also talking about that, as well as the impact, maybe sexual crimes against women and children. You know, you have to have a document, don't rape women, for God's sake. But Iranian terrorists could get into this country.
Yeah, I mean, listen, anyone of... to be honest, there's a different side to this story as well. I was actually told by the smuggler, you know, if any other Europeans, you know, want to get on the boat, let me know. I've sort of opened the door to the European boat tickets now across the channel.
I might have a trip.
Yeah. So, but going back to your point there, yeah, can anybody come in? Absolutely. It doesn't matter. You know, if you are Middle Eastern or African, you are, you know, turn up in France and you're over into Britain.
So how do you, as a government whose primary concern is supposed to be to protect your people, how do you look yourselves in the mirror then if you're allowing unvetted men who could be criminals, who could be violent terrorists into your country? It's ludicrous, bewildering.
Well, I mean, it goes, like we just said, it goes one step further. They're not only just letting these people into the country, they are planting them next door to families across our nation. It's you know, it's so sad what this government's doing to its people. And that's why, you know, that's why me and Isabel have gone out and we're doing this kind of stuff, because we want to find the truth and we want to deliver it to the nation, you know.
That you mentioned that the only way for governments to stop this is to do what you do. What, a politician to go and see it for themselves undercover?
I mean, yeah, or take notice of what we're doing.
It's interesting, by the way, sorry, not to jump in, the Home Office, after that statement or before that statement, have agreed to have a meeting with you. Why would they call you reckless and then agree to meet with you?
Well, they want my intelligence, don't they? And you know what?
Are you going to give it to them?
I assume the people who typed that statement didn't realise that a branch of the Home Office intelligence have got a meeting set up with me. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bit of an egg on the face moment for whoever wrote that statement. But
so they came to you and said, "We'd like to meet you."
Yeah, they said.
Are you charging them for that?
No, listen, I'm doing it for the good of the country. So you know,
man.
that's why I've done it.
Would you do it again?
We might have other things on the cards.
What does that mean?
Well, it's undercover and top secret.
This is me. Sorry. Do you know the hardest thing in my life, because I can't hold my own wee, I haven't been able to say anything for 24 hours. Christian's quite proud of me. Sum it up. 5 o'clock tonight, extraordinary, a Talk World exclusive. I cannot tell you the response has been phenomenal. The bravery you've shown, the audacity almost, and Isabel and you working together, it's extraordinary. Made the point, actually, lots of mainstream media. It's now 9:30. Let me tell you from my experience of this business, you know, the Jeremy Kyle show was axed and 35 seconds later it was everywhere. This should be on the mainstream media, but many of the mainstream do not want to tell this story. That must rankle.
Listen, it's not up to the mainstream media to put this story out. We've put it out between us, and we've got evidence with recordings and footage and photos. And you know, the good people of Britain will take notice of it, and that's good.
That's where social media for me is a good thing, because if you know, there are many things about social media that I hate and loathe, right? Especially the kids and all that stuff. But actually, this is moving this story around will get far more traction than it will on a couple of BBC or ITV news segments.
Well, I mean, listen, BBC, I mean, they must have spent an absolute fortune on their investigation that they did to Dunkirk. And their investigation ended them up in a vape shop somewhere in the UK. I mean, I watched that and I'm just thinking, you know, fair play to the people who actually went into the Dunkirk jungle, because it's not that pleasant. But I guarantee you, they didn't do it. They had a huge budget, and they didn't really find much out, did they? So
Christian mentioned that the bus fares are not paid in France. Does he think, says Zarina, that we're subsidising the French buses with the £500 million we're sending? Is it that in cohorts? Do you think?
Say that again. Sorry.
We're giving them £500 million. You said that the buses there was no charge. So who's paying for the buses? The money that we're giving to France?
Who knows, eh?
That'd be great, wouldn't it? Morning, JK. Great show. I'm sure the Invading Britain will make some eye-opening viewing. What else can you get a daily dose of common sense? Liz, who totally loves the bones of you. Christian, great exclusive. Dan, leak in Cheshire. Oh, here you are. Quickly, while you've got him on, how much did he say it was to get in a dinghy? I don't know whether somebody's phoning from a migrant camp texting me.
1,400 euros.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
I mean, listen, you know, there was a moment where I had a bit of an half-an-hour nap on the boat. We only had 36 on the dinghy, so it was like the guy said.
Was it scary going across the water in something so flimsy? How long did it take?
When you get to the halfway point and you're cold and the waves are like that, I'm thinking, I've got a life jacket on, I can swim, I can see the boat, you know, you can see land both ways. You know, you've got the search and rescue guys next to you with nets around it in case the dinghy sinks. You can just hold on to it. The worst you would have been is cold. You know, you're followed over, you're escorted by the French authorities. So, I mean, as long as you've got a life jacket on,
escorted by the French authorities.
You're not really going to die. But yeah.
Here you are, right, Mark. Here's £500 million. Could you please stop anybody from coming into the studio? Oh, where's Mark? Oh, he's just escorting people into the studio. Well, I'm paying him not to. Isabel's just been on because it's an operation, this whole thing, and she's just saying, Re-Media pick up, Telegraph running it hard, Times are also following, loads of people getting involved. Where does this leave the government of the day? Do you believe that this piece of work and the continued arguments and things that we talk about, do you think that anybody has the will, the desire, or the balls, frankly, to do anything about this problem?
No, the will's not there. Listen, they've got questions to answer, but just like Shabana Mahmood's actually got some great policies. They are great at keeping the British public quiet, but they're never going to stop the boats.
I'm next talking to the chairman of the Conservative Party, Kevin Holinrate. What would you like me to say to him?
I mean, yeah, just tell him the facts and see what he has to say, really.
Good man. I suspect when this goes out with your eyes and your dashing character, there'll be women round the block. But on a serious note, mate, I don't think in all of my time I've seen such an impressive piece of journalism, and we appreciate it. Watchman UK, Christian Drogan, undercover migrant reporter. So it is tonight. Big sino. You need a bacon sandwich. You need some breakfast, don't
absolutely,
you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Learn, but just give you a bit of advice. Now you're in the public. I just demand. Go out there and say, I want a bacon sandwich and I need to lie down in a darkened room or I'm not coming on next. Listen, your thoughts on Christian and this show, but tonight from 5 o'clock on our YouTube channel and live on the radio as well from 5 o'clock, the undercover migrant returns, invading It's extraordinary. I mean, we've shown you a little snapshot. He's a superstar. He'll be up for Spider-Man or Superman next in Olive. We'll be back in 3.
Go to Calais train station?
Yes, train station.
OK. I was dipping. It was brutal.
Come on, guys! Ready, full fence, go on!
And they're on the way over to UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 25 to 10. We're live across the United Kingdom. JK on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, and the radio station that this morning gave you a world exclusive. A British undercover reporter has become the first journalist ever to cross the English Channel in a migrant dinghy, exposing the criminal people smugglers and the chaos that the French gendarmes take part in. We're giving them 500 million quid a year. Let's speak to the chairman of the Conservative Party for his reaction this morning. Kevin Hollingray, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy.
Have you seen or heard the footage?
I just heard that last... I've been on the morning round all morning, but I've just seen the last conversation you had with Christian, which seemed incredibly brave and incredibly informative. I'm keen to watch the whole thing.
Well, you're never gonna work in the Home Office, because I'm going to read you what the Home Office, Kevin Hollingray, said this morning. This individual's actions were reckless. They made it more difficult for law enforcement officers to stop small boat crossings and save lives. Our partnership with France is stronger than ever, Kevin, with a new deal signed by the Home Secretary delivering a 40% uplift in boots on the ground. Together, we're piling the pressure on the criminal gangs and preventing illegal and dangerous crossings. Over 1,100 boats or engines have been seized since the election. 48,000 crossing attempts have been prevented. The number of small boat crossings are down. What an absolute ridiculous response, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in life, you've got to confront the brutal facts. And the brutal facts is we haven't solved this problem. We felt we had the right plan to do that. It's got to be a detention and deportation. Well, you're right to be cynical about France, about its ability to stop those boats. And in fact, as you and Christian were saying, they're actually shepherding boats across the channel. So we can only really control what we can control, but we can control the fact that when people get to our shores illegally, we should detain them in detention camps, pending their immediate removal back to their home destination, home country, or back to a third country. In our case, we plan to send them to Rwanda. That is the only thing that will stop these people making that perilous journey over the channel. We have the plan to do that. We want to go further than what we went before. Our borders plan includes leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, because clearly legal action was taken to try and block that legislation that we put in place and the mechanisms that sat behind it. So that's what we'll do under a future Conservative government.
The thing that comes to me, and this is not actually political, this is just two men having a chat about this, right? This whole detain and deport. I can sit here and I can have the debate, Kevin, about they're crossing 7 countries. I can never get away from the fact that patently one of the main reasons they come to England is because we basically give more. I mean, there's an astonishing story today. The leader of Essex County Council was given access to Wethersfield former RAF base. This is 800 migrants in Essex with, I mean, I don't know if you've read this story this morning. It's like a holiday camp, man. Gym, football pitch, snack bar, 17 minibuses to take them wherever they want, spending money, mobile phones, doctors, dentists. Is there not an argument for all political parties? Nigel Farage said this earlier, I think somebody else mentioned this, that actually we should stop them from setting foot in our country whatsoever, because the minute they do, all this human rights BS, with the greatest respect, kicks in and we seem incapable. Is there not an argument that says that actually what we should do is prevent them from setting foot in our country, remove them from the channel, either by meeting at the 12-mile block and saying to the French they're your responsibility, or picking them up in one of these border force vessels and taking them to a detention camp, probably in the Scottish Highlands, I don't know where it's not cosy, it's not lovely, and we're not governed by a bunch of wet liberals who go, all their human rights. I just think the British people have had enough, Kevin, genuinely.
Well, I agree with that. And we had similar plans for one of those kind of camps in my constituency in the last Parliament, which I objected to and we successfully blocked. That was at RAF Linton on Ouse. And that would have housed 1,200 illegal migrants in the centre of a rural North Yorkshire village. And the Labour's brought those plans back forward again. It's not in my constituency anymore. It's in Wetherby Easington constituency, but I'm keen to support their efforts, because that's not what should happen. And it shouldn't be this cosy life people should have coming over here. As you said, the most sensible, pragmatic solution is detention. Detention in a detention camp in the UK, pending their immediate removal.
That's not very nice. Sorry, I'm sick and tired of hearing about, and I mean this. There's nothing. outrageous in what I'm going to say. I speak to too many people, Kevin, and I know, as the chairman of a revamped party, you understand this. But the truth of the matter is, there are millions of hard-working Brits who ring every day and they say one thing to me, Kev, the same thing every day. So let me get this right, Jez. I'll do 60 hours this week. I'll never break the law. I'll do everything that's right. I'll pay my bills. I'll pay my taxes. I'll look after my wife or my husband, and I'll look after my kids. And I can probably barely afford a curry on a Friday. But I'm looking at this, and there's one word that keeps coming to me, and that is unfairness. And that is what millions of people, when they see this footage, feel. And we seem to have a government, and you said you've gone further, past governments. You're talking about detain and deport now and the ECHR. This is not on you, but that could have been done 5 years ago. Sunak could have bought Rwanda a lot quicker. Boris Johnson has lots to answer for. We know that, but we're in the here and now. But what I fervently believe the British people want, Kevin, is conviction and belief that something is finally going to happen. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's one of the reasons Kemi Badenoch is the most popular political leader in the country today. Andy Burnham's got a bit of a bounce, but I don't think that will last for long, because I think people can see from Kemi, she says what she means, and she means what she says. But the reality is, I mean, you know the facts behind this, Jeremy. Small boats did not become a thing till about 2020.
Yep.
And that's because we closed the other routes, the HGVs coming over the channel. So that's what we stopped that route, and then they switched to this form of transport. This is even more difficult in many ways to stop. So therefore, instead of simply stopping them, as you say, in the channel, the most sensible and the only workable way of stopping these boats coming across the channel is saying to those people, if you arrive at our shores, we'll detain you in detention centres and deport you. When we did that, there was an immediate change to behaviour. We saw people going to Ireland rather than coming to the UK.
Yeah.
So we know it works. It's worked in other countries. We can do it here. We've got to have the courage of our convictions. I totally agree with you. We need somebody that people believe in will actually deal with this. We did try to deal with it. We didn't go quite far enough. And now we have said detention, deportation, pull out the European Convention on Human Rights to stop the courts stopping us from doing what people want us to do. We are fully committed to doing those things.
I asked Nigel Farage earlier, and I asked you, Kevin, because I try on this show to give everybody a chance. He says he'd leave the ECHR. I read repeatedly how difficult this would be, how, you know, human rights lawyers would tie anybody in a knot. I don't understand. I'm probably a boring human being. If I've got a 185-seat majority, I'm going to do what I damn well want. Do the Tory party believe it would be possible to get by this quickly, or is it going to be a tortuous process leaving this agreement?
No, I mean, it's important you do the work. You don't just come out with the rhetoric or the high-level statements without doing the work. And that's why Kemi asked Lord Wolfson, our Shadow Attorney General, one of the most senior lawyers in the country, to look at, is it possible? Can we do it? European Convention on Human Rights. We also need to look at Convention on Refugees, other legislation. He set all that out. People can read it. It's 170 pages long. He said we can do all this without it compromising other agreements like the Good Friday Agreement. It's quite clear. We have a clear plan and we have a good team to deliver on it. We've got a totally committed leader who will make sure we do it. So I think all these things are deliverable, and we will deliver them if we get back in power. And we want to do that as soon as possible.
Kevin, it's always great to have you, and we want balance as much as possible. Kevin Hurlingray, MP and chairman of the Conservative Party, thank you so much indeed for your time. 17 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Rob says, if you've got money, you can get on a boat, simple as that. And when you know you won't be stopped the other end and a lovely free stuff awaits you, why wouldn't you? The Tories played a major part in this and don't deserve another chance. Steve on Nigel Farage, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Steve from Yorkshire. As much as I'm a Reform member, as much as I know we need a change in this country, I do worry about Nigel Farage, because when you asked him about will he stop giving money to the French, he answered another question, or he went on to something else. He didn't answer that, and I worry about the big questions he doesn't answer. And it's got to a stage now where he needs to put basically he needs to answer these questions before he gets in power, because I'm just worried, but he's gone a bit soft, and that's not what we want, and that's not what we need in this country. He's been talking the good fight for years. I just hope that he does it when he gets into power. Cheers.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 14 minutes to 10. In a sec, the amazing Samara Gill. Let's go to let's go to Rob. Morning, Robbie.
Morning, Jez. Everything that we're seeing, this video that's going to come out, that doesn't surprise me at all. I could go down there if I had the money and get on. Anybody can. That's no big shock. Do we not already know that the French are completely taking the mickey out of everybody? The odd boat slashed. There is no effort. As long as they come in the top of the sock and the hole in the bottom of the sock's available, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to keep them in their country when they can fish them out to us. Go on, off you go, off you go. That's going to never stop. So there's no big surprises. And everybody needs to know and completely understands now that this is building to the huge crescendo that is going to explode.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that agree. Quickly to Laura Jane. Good morning, Laura Jane. Couple of minutes on Talk Breakfast. What you got for me?
Good morning. I wish I could have taken Kevin, the chairman of the Conservative Party, by the scruff of his neck. Honestly, everything he says, Reform said before, and suddenly he's going on about what the reform policies are, and it's just, it irritates me beyond belief. And also, I don't believe a word he says. I really don't. I think, you know, I've had 4 prime ministers in my family, and I can tell you that all of them would be turning in their Conservative graves, because that man represents the way the Conservative government, they're just, well, I hate to use the word slimy because it sounds awful, but they just don't sound honest anymore. They just sound like they're a parrots repeating most of what reform policies 10 minutes after they've done it, and then they try to convince us that they're going to do it. I am speechless, Kevin, because it just I really wish I could have spoken to that man when you were speaking to him, because as I said, you know, when you've got a long history of prime ministers going back to Lord Melbourne, Queen Victoria's first prime minister, honestly, there's a history there in my family, and I know I can smell when people aren't speaking the truth or think they are.
You don't want to work here, you could smell a lot. I get your point. I will say I'm not called Kevin. I've now been, honestly, you called me Kevin. But listen, Laura Jane, we love your involvement. We appreciate it very much indeed. For anybody who doesn't know, this Talk World exclusive will be live on our YouTube channel from 5 o'clock this afternoon. Christian Drogan, we spoke to him, the first undercover reporter to ever cross the English Channel in a migrant dinghy. Isabel Oakeshot's done great work. It's just been an incredible response this morning. We say a very good morning to the ultimate female reporter. Samara, good morning.
Hello, yes, I've been usurped by Christian. My goodness. I mean, the fact that he was able to do that, I think that's something that everyone's wanted someone to go and do and actually investigate. Yeah, I mean, very scary. Christian basically risked his life to get this report for Talk.
And took a long time, and there was that... Do you know what I find most extraordinary about the footage is that after, like, 14 months, when he finally got to that boat, walking 18 miles, desperately got and pulled that woman, did all of that, he looked at the engine, because he knows about boats, and went, that's not going to work, and there was a problem, and then a gendarme come out and slashed the boats, and he said, I reckon they did that because they knew it was never leaving. He'd point the fact that buses are free. Is everybody in cahoots because we're giving him 500 million quid? You'd think so.
I mean, what Christian pointed out is that the dinghy is only really the final step of an international criminal supply chain. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. And the reason that it took so long is because he basically had to go properly undercover. I mean, last year we released the series where he was living in the jungles of Calais, and he was essentially assimilating into that community, pretending to be an illegal migrant. He doesn't speak Kurdish, he doesn't speak any of the languages. They do try and suss out these people that are trying to expose them, because as you said, Jeremy, there's millions and millions of dollars at stake, if not billions. We're talking about international syndicates that operate across the world. They work in cahoots with some governments, they work in cahoots with police forces around the country. Just look at what happened in Ceuta in Spain, when we saw those hordes of migrants come across from Morocco into Spain. Now, the Moroccan government actually claimed some responsibility, according to the Telegraph, about that, and it shows you that it's not just some some guy on a beach, you know, handing out tickets to the dinghy. This is a really serious craven operation that the left wing don't want us to know.
Well, I was going to say something. I have a little bit of experience of this. When they decided to axe Michaud years ago, it took 35 seconds for it to be on every single news channel. We broke this at 7 o'clock. I would say this is probably one of the most shocking and interesting stories for a long, long time, especially in August where there's no news. Not a sign of it. Not a sign of it on the BBC, not a sign of it on Sky, not a sign of it on ITV. Because, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, the establishment don't want to admit either the failings or the lack of will and desire to do something about this, and that's what we fight every single day, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the sort of refugees welcome crowd don't want to actually read. The article is in the Telegraph, obviously, about what Christian went through. That was released as well this morning.
It's in the Sun as well. Yep.
And look, when you read it, what it is actually about is a struggle, a real human struggle, human sacrifice, and people putting their life on the line for false promises that our government is promising to those at the end of this journey. And that's the horrible part of it. You know, he's saying that he walked 42,000 steps in one day. He was surviving off just cheap snacks and different things.
Page 17 of the Sun, just so you're aware, across the channel on illegal migrant dinghy. OK, sorry about
that. Right, no,
it's
on this. Yeah, it's in the Sun as well. That's great. So, yeah, I mean, it is on all the reputable right-wing newspapers, but of course the investigation was done here at Talk. And I think it is a testament to Christian to actually expose what the hell is going on, because you won't see any of the governments commenting on this. I wonder is the Labour government going to respond to us?
Well, the Home Office have. The individual's actions were reckless. They made it more difficult for law enforcement officers to stop small boat crossings and save lives in dangerous conditions. I go on our partnership with France. This is the Home Office, stronger than ever, really. With a new deal signed by the Home Secretary delivering a 40% uplift in boots on the ground. Together, this is our government, we are piling the pressure on the criminal gangs and preventing illegal and dangerous crossings. Over 1,000 boats, 1,100 boats or engines have been seized since the election. 48,000 crossing attempts have been prevented and the number of small boat crossings are down. Completely oblivious, and call that piece of journalism reckless, I would say. Being completely honest, it's pretty bloody reckless to sit on your backside in Whitehall and do nothing about a problem that has galvanised opinion and is destroying so much of our country. It is.
Amen to that, really. I mean, no, you're completely right. They just want to turn a blind eye to it. Andy Burnham going on his cost of living tour isn't going to do anything if he doesn't put some sort of stop on this. And I think what this report mostly exposes is the fact that this whole smash the gangs doctrine that Starmer ran on just merely 2 years ago is an absolute farce. These gangs can't be smashed.
Sorry, a shock horror, breaking news. Did you just say something that Keir Starmer promised? It didn't happen and that was a shock?
Well, I mean, it
nothing they said has happened, because I don't see. I should have been Australian. I don't understand, right? This is a problem. This is affecting millions of people. It's destroying our public services. Yes. I keep talking about going to Bournemouth every time I take my son for his driving test theory, which he failed a couple of times, and they are there. I am not making this up. I am not far right. Bournemouth has got hundreds of illegal migrants, and you can see it in the streets. There are towns across the United Kingdom in exactly the same way. When will a government, whether it's Tory or Labour or Reform, wake up to the fact that the British people have had enough of this? The Australians did it. Tony Abbott did it. He was vilified internationally. Now it's policy in your country.
Yes, and Operation Sovereign Borders was one of the most successful pieces of policy ever. And you'd think that a country like the United Kingdom with almost a mirrored issue would look to Australia and say, OK, that's what we should do because it stopped the boats in 1 week. No, they won't do it because, unfortunately, it's a very bloated system where a lot of people are profiteering from this on both sides. Both the criminal gangs, the people who take the government contracts here in the United Kingdom, those who cash in on HMOs, asylum hotels. I mean, just yesterday we revealed a story where it's £500,000 a day is going into merely just transporting illegal migrants around the country.
Well, have you not
Why
heard
would
about
they
that?
want to put a stop to that?
Have you not heard about this? Have you heard about this Wethersfield former RAF base today in the Daily Mail? This holiday camp for 800 migrants. I mean, forget the gym, the football pitch, poker, snooker, massages and swimming. 17 minibuses that ferry migrants anywhere they want to go.
Yes, and I know for a fact, because I've spoken to some locals, that they have made that town hellish because they take their some of them take their £49 that they get from their government stipend. They go and buy alcohol and hang around in the town, and it's not women and children, as we can very clearly see from Christian's report. It is all men of military age, of sexually active age, and of course not all of them are horrible, vile individuals and rapists and murderers, but unfortunately too many times we've seen basically this summer a litany of reports.
And very quickly, we're almost out of time. I'm totally with you. Also, the driver, what do you call him? The bloke that was driving that boat spoke Farsi. And Nigel Farage stood up 3 months ago and said, what about political operatives getting to this country? And everybody went, oh, he's barking mad.
No.
How many people, not sexually deviant and criminals, are we allowing in and we don't know anything about them? They could be terrorists, for God's sake.
Well, they have been terrorists. Hostile states, such as Iran, and Russia has also been included, have actually used the small boat crisis in order to get operatives across. Just a couple months ago, we had someone try and attack the Israeli embassy with a knife, and he said it's for Gaza, and he came over on a small boat just a couple of weeks before. So we've seen it. There's been 20 foiled terrorist attacks from Iranian-linked operatives. So there are sleeper cells within this country. It is a national security issue, Jeremy, and thank you to Christian for exposing how dark and deep that underbelly really is.
And thank you to you, and thank you to everybody. Great piece of work. Isabel and Christian Drogan on tonight from 5 o'clock on Talk's YouTube channel and on the station with Kevin O'Sullivan. It's the undercover migrant returning. It's invading Britain. It is a first time any reporter has ever done that. We will see you tomorrow from 6 a.m. Stand by for Alex, but 5 p.m. Don't miss it. Ta-ra.
Go to Calais train station?
Yes, train station.
Okay. I was gripping it. It was brutal.
Come on, guys! Ready, full fence, go on!
And they're on the way over to UK.